Hello and welcome back to the TLDR News Podcast. I'm Jack Kelly and today I'm joined by Zach Michaelis and Rory Taylor.
Hello.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, very well actually. Yeah.
Good. We've got
Yeah.
lots to talk about today. We're obviously discussing our underreported stories of the week. We are talking about the world leader leaderboard, seeing who's winning and who's losing. And our main story today is discussing the latest updates from Ukraine and how that interacts with various geopolitical wranglings. Before we get to any of that though, and Zach reminded you about this when he hosted on Monday, but our newspaper that we were selling at the end of last year, Too Long, is now available at a discounted price. Essentially, we held back a chunk of the newspapers that we'd have enough spares to handle with returns, postage issues, that kind of thing. And now we're confident enough that we have enough sent out that we can start selling those spare ones, essentially. So there is only a really limited quantity left, and we're selling them for $5.99
to $3.99.
And there's also a digital copy that didn't exist before that is $3.99. Thank you, Zach.
That's very good.
So if you wanted a physical copy, didn't get around to it, we have a handful left for $5.99. And if you didn't want a physical one and you prefer a digital copy to keep forever digitally, that's $3.99. Both available on the TLDR website. That's tldrnews.co.uk. Let's get into our underreported stories. Rory, do you want to go first?
Sure. So mine is a story that is pretty close to my heart because it's something I actually wrote about in a video last year, which was one of the first full videos I wrote when I kind of moved over to being a writer.
Yeah.
So it's a story from Thailand, and the headline, the recent headline is that the Constitutional Court in Thailand has ruled that attempts by a political party called Move Forward, attempts or calls to amend the country's strict royal insult laws are unconstitutional and illegal. So the court is saying to the party, you can't call for these laws to be amended because it violates the constitution, and if you do, you'll be in trouble. For reference, Thailand has one of the world's strictest royal insult laws. If you insult the monarchy, you can go to prison for up to 15 years.
Wow.
And this isn't one of those ones where it's like, yes, technically it's illegal, but no one goes to prison. A lot of people do go to prison and are charged with it. I think the statistic that kind of is pretty shocking, since 2020, 262 people have been charged under this law. And there was a man recently who faces up to 50 years in prison because it's up to 15 years per incident of insulting the monarchy. So it's pretty horrendous. So the kind of background to this is that last year at the general election, this progressive reformist party called Move Forward won this surprise victory. And they'd been campaigning on all sorts of things, but one of their main ones was that they would loosen these laws to make it, not illegal to insult the monarchy. And they won the election. They're the largest party, but they failed to form a government because of lots of things, but mainly it was because of the conservative kind of establishment in the Senate that blocked them. But, that's kind of in the past now. But this legal case has been ongoing for quite some time. And the court has said, by calling to change the law on royal insults, you are threatening to overthrow the constitutional monarchy. So I think this is an interesting case for two reasons. One is the effect on Move Forward. Technically, they haven't been told to dissolve as a party, but this does open them up to the risk that they could be told to disband if they do carry on calling for these changes. But I think more interestingly is that it shows the real power of the monarchy in Thailand, but also possibly I think basically long term, I think it's a mistake, both morally and kind of politically, because if you offer no room for people to say, we need to change these laws, then if you don't give them any peaceful method of doing that, in the long term, you're kind of really putting yourself at risk of something less than peaceful, let's say.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's pretty big news from Thailand and one worth keeping an eye on.
Isn't Thailand also one of those half democracies where the Senate is the seats are guaranteed to the conservative establishment?
Yeah. So any time that elected officials kind of or progressive democratically elected officials try and change something, there's all this massive opposition from the various parts of the state. And this is just the latest kind of in that saga.
Yeah, it sets it up. I mean, the constitutional setup just sort of guarantees interparliamentary conflict, doesn't it? Because
absolutely.
If you've got a conservative establishment that's guaranteed the control of the Senate, and then people keep on electing progressives, you end up with this constant infighting. Yeah, it's a tough one. Is it also the last thing? I don't know if I got this right, but is it the Thai monarch, the one who spends all his time in Germany?
Yeah, he's a very odd guy.
Yeah, okay. With an enormously long name.
Yes, and he's also got lots of like fancy little dogs that he takes around with him as well, I think. So
Nice.
yeah, interesting guy.
Yeah.
Zach, what's your underreported? Okay.
That's exciting.
Mic swap.
Oh, good timing.
Good.
Oh
Wow.
wait, that's not a test, is it?
isn't a test, though. Huh? It's Wednesday, yeah. This is real.
Huh? Why did I get promoted? Because I'm awesome and because I'm using WordTune. Last week, I almost sent Nate, our graphic designer, kind of a bossy message. But then I used WordTune's rewrite and it helped me express myself better and more delicately. Good call. My client Shirley was driving me crazy and I didn't know what to say. So I generated an answer using WordTune, and what can I say? It worked. The other day, my boss Mike called me out on my lazy research. Luckily, WordTune Spices was there to back up my ideas with some facts and statistics. Here you go, Mike. With WordTune, I'm me, but better. Try it for free.
Okay, so what is your underreported story, Zach?
So my reported story is just that Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni earlier this week paid a trip to Africa where she was announcing a whole swathe of new investment and development funding, basically aid funding. And the sums involved aren't too massive, it's about 5.5 billion euros. But I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons. I mean, the first is that she very deliberately framed it in sort of contrast to Chinese lending, which, well, she described it, we shouldn't use the word Chinese, but she just talks about predatory lending. And that's clearly a sort of allusion to this idea that China lends lots of money to basically developing countries that can't pay it back. And then when they go, oh, we can't pay it back, China goes, okay, well, you at least give us your strategically significant assets. So the example everyone talks about is Sri Lanka, where borrowed a lot of money from China. China was their biggest single creditor. And then when they couldn't pay it back, China took out a 99-year lease on Hambantota Port, which is this deep sea port that can host military vessels that, you know, that was basically taken as evidence that the Chinese are sort of deliberately over-lending so they can sort of coerce developing countries into giving them strategically significant assets on the cheap, basically.
Yeah.
The other thing I think was, so I think that's really interesting. And I think that this like new competition between the West and China for Africa is actually just fundamentally a great thing, because it means that we should see more development aid going to Africa. And if geopolitical competition rather than cooperation is what gets Africa the money it needs for development, I mean, that's fundamentally a good thing, as long as you're not, you know, it's a sort of ends versus means thing. But the other thing I thought was interesting about it is that she also tied some of the future funding to immigration. And she basically said that if you do more to stop immigration flowing into Europe, you can have more money. And I think that this is another example of Meloni sort of charting this new course of like palatable conservatism, where she gets to sort of pitch herself domestically as like, you know, strong on immigration and very sort of immigration skeptic. But at the like European or the international level, she has this like humanitarian argument where she goes like, well, actually, sure, I'm trying to limit immigration into Italy, but that's, you know, that's not because I have no sympathy for like the needs of the developing world. It's because I think it's better to make sure that living standards improve in places like Africa and basically developing countries. And I think that is like a sort of like, it's a morally palatable form of immigration skepticism. And I think that's interesting both because it's probably, I think, where the EU will end up going in terms of immigration politics and policy in the next few years, and also because it's yet another example of Meloni playing quite, I think, a clever political positioning game where she manages to sort of maintain her conservative edge, but at the same time, like appeal or sort of appear even like palatable
Hello,
to the
Dizzy.
international
He
community.
reaches yellow for me.
Interesting.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna keep him
Two very
here.
good underreported stories,
Wow.
as
I'm gonna
always.
keep him here to silent him. Hey,
Let's
how's
now
life
move on
going?
to the
How is
main part of the
everything
podcast.
going? Wish. Okay.
Let's talk about Ukraine.
Oh, damn,
because
they just went
we
into
obviously spoke a
Ukraine
lot about
conversation.
Ukraine over the last kind of couple
They
of years.
just went
It was
into-
a major news story.
What's gonna be the question?
It is still
Should
a
you
major
review
news story,
more?
but
And
one
the
that gets
answer
less
is yes, and I
attention,
feel like you can just
and
skip
one that
over
we've
it and like
discussed
what it is.
less.
But also,
there
I
have been some
want to
interesting
skip over
developments in
Ukraine
recent
conversation. I
weeks
feel
that we
it's an
thought are
important
worth
part to have.
addressing. And there's
So I'm
various
just
things we want to
gonna
talk
leave
about.
them on.
Most of them bad, right, for Ukraine.
Yeah, I think
We've
so.
got issues on the battlefield. We've got kind of political issues for Zelensky domestically and internationally. It's generally not a great picture, and it's kind
I'm
of hard
just
to know where to
gonna
start. So,
read them all.
which
Got
of those
good and bad
elements
news.
of troubles do we want to start
What's
with?
the bad
Well, I think the thing that's in the
ones?
headlines at the moment is this story about
Yeah, the bad
Ukrainian,
ones. What's
like,
the bad
land
ones?
forces
I wanna
commander,
hear the bad ones.
Valery Zaluzhny.
Thank you, Vala. I
and,
will carry my title
President
very, very
Zelensky.
proudly.
And there
I need
have
to make a
been
crown.
reports
Needs to
of
make, I need to
similar
put it in my
intentions between the
account.
two
Gonna be
for a
my new
while
bio,
now.
the
I
queen.
think some of that is
The expert in
that
Russophobia
disagreement
is,
originates in a disagreement over strategy on the
possibly
battlefield. I
the
think apparently Zelensky
best
was keen on,
title
for
I have been
example,
given
like,
so
committing
far.
troops to Bakhmut
Bad
than
news,
Zelensky
Eastern Europe
was.
is
Zelensky
fucked.
is
Oh,
widely
because
credited
of
with the
USA
successful
betraying
defense of
us?
Kiev in the early days of the war.
Because of
and
USA
the
pissing
Kharkiv
on us?
counteroffensive in the latter, well, the latter
I
part
think-
of whatever it was, 2022.
I think
But it spilled out into
the
public
entirety
late last
of
year
Eastern
when
Europe,
Zelensky gave
no.
an interview to The Economist where he described the war
and
as
I
being
think
a
so because
stalemate.
of Poland.
Before Zelensky came out
I
a couple of
think
days later and said, no, the war is not a
whoever
stalemate. We're going to win.
Poland
I think that
decides
also, by the way, speaks
to
this other difference in
defend,
sort of like,
wherever is the red line
media
for
strategy
Poland,
between the two. And I think Zelensky
is where, like, the
believes
red
you have
line
to be very, very
for,
bullish and very, very enthusiastic and sort of like
you know,
gung-ho.
Eastern
Whereas I
Europe
think
not getting
Zelensky
fucked.
thinks that actually
Yes.
that sets you up for
But yeah,
resentment
it will
and sort of
depend on when
over-expectations, and
they are
instead
willing
wants
to
perhaps
enter
Kiev
the
to be
fight
more
on someone
honest with
else's
the Ukrainian
behalf,
public
because I
about
do not
the state of
expect that
play
they
on
are
the
going to
battlefield.
be the target
But
of Russian
then more
aggression
recently,
themselves.
in the last
So
couple
it's
of
gonna
days,
depend, you know.
there were
Like, is
reports
Poland
about a
willing
week
to
ago
fight
that
for the Baltics?
Zelensky had asked
If
Zelensky
they
to step
are, you
down.
people might be good. If they are
No,
not,
but these were obviously denied originally by both actually sort of
I
like
do want to trust
pro-Ukrainian
Poles
sources,
more
but
than
then
I trust
also
Americans, though.
Kiev itself.
But at the same time,
But
I
then
trusted
it turns
Americans,
out
and
that,
look what happened.
Yeah,
So
well,
maybe-
Zelensky was asked to step down. But I
Maybe
think
you
quite tellingly he
shouldn't
just said
trust
no.
anyone.
So he was originally asked to step down and said you can at least maybe move to being my defensive advisor.
Be alright.
But then he just said no. And what's interesting about this is that he's still in post,
Because
which
if
either
you
suggests that Zelensky
allow
is waiting,
Russia
but I
to
think
attack a
more
NATO
likely it
nation
just
and you do not
suggests that
participate
Zelensky
as a
doesn't have the
NATO
political
member in
power
defense of
to
said
oust
nation,
Zelensky.
then that means NATO is
Zelensky
dead.
is, according to most polls at the moment,
The
more
second
popular
Russia
than
attacks one of
Zelensky,
us and we don't do
widely
anything,
seen
NATO
as
is
like
gone.
a potential presidential candidate.
And at that point, it
when
becomes a
/
dangerous
if,
thing for Poland
these,
too,
like,
because if
elections
Poland
are
gets
held,
attacked, it will not
Zelensky's been
be
talking
having
about
the
holding
ability
elections, like, the past
to
year or
seek
so,
assistance
which is quite weird
from
for a
like
country that's like in a
Germans or
war.
Frenchies or anyone
And
really,
that, I
right?
think is in part
Because like
a reaction to
there's
the
no
fact
NATO
that
anymore.
one of the things
NATO
the
doesn't
Republicans have
exist.
been
NATO is
demanding
dead.
as a condition on Ukrainian aid. I think it was slightly
So
arbitrary.
I think
the
it's
Republicans
not
trying
in
to come up with
anyone's
some reason
interest to
stopped giving
see
aid, and they basically said,
the first NATO member of
it doesn't hold elections.
that's going to be a victim of Russian aggression, to see the first
yeah,
one
this is
just
bad
kind of
news
allowed
for
to
obvious
fight
reasons. I
alone.
mean, partly it's infighting, and infighting is never good, especially
What
not
makes you think
constant
NATO
war.
won't defend
But
Baltics?
another thing that's
The
bad
fact
news is I
NATO
think
hasn't
that
been tested
infighting and
yet,
domestic
to me,
politics
is
before
quite a
elections
strong
just makes Ukraine seem like a normal
reason
country.
not to
It just
have
it
too
makes
much
it,
trust
not
in
boring
them.
is the wrong
The
word, but
alliance has not been tested
Ukraine
yet
had a sort of
properly.
like a real symbolism to much of the
So
West. A couple of years ago.
immediately,
But
I think
when
what
the
we should
headlines are
look
dominated
for
by sort of
is
like
the
political infighting and
behavior
talk
of
old
members
sort of
so
political
far,
figures and, like,
rather than
Poroshenko
expecting that
coming back
somehow,
into
you
the
know,
fray,
their behavior
it
is going
just
to change
begins to look like a
magically
bog
if
standard
Article
European
5 is
political
pushed.
crisis. And I do think that will
And I do not
dent
think NATO
Western
states have
enthusiasm or
shown
interest, which
the
I think is a bit
will
worrying.
nor the want
But yeah, so
to
that's what's
fight
going on at the
against
moment.
Russia, really.
And I think
I don't
that
think they've
comes on
shown
top
anything
of,
so far.
again,
I
whether or
think
not you
we're being
describe it as a
pussies. I think
stalemate
Europe
is
might
sort
be
of
the
a-
one,
like a
the
contested
part
topic,
that is
but
currently waking up.
Ukraine has themselves
But
said
it's
that
way
they're
too
moving away
slow.
from sort of
It's
offensive
way
actions
too
towards those
unorganized.
active defense,
We're having way
which is
too
at least a
many
sort of tacit
traitors
admission
allowed
that
in
not
our
much is
midst.
going to change on the front lines.
And I believe the same
for the,
issues that we
well,
are
the
seeing now are
foreseeable
going to
future.
be issues that we
and
will
then
see
obviously
if
the last
a NATO
thing
member
to say
country
is that there's
gets attacked.
the issue of funding.
And I don't know if we'll be
and
able to
the Ukrainian
deal
economy
with
has actually
this.
held up, I mean, astonishingly well. There's tough something like a 50% drop in GDP since the war began. The Ukrainian economy is on track to grow.
Massacre speedrun
by 5%
starts? Yeah,
this year,
definitely,
which is-
definitely. I mean, that was
that's
the whole
astonishing.
idea.
It's a country in
It was a
wartime, and
bullshit
it's
idea,
suffered a
wasn't it, with the
massive loss of,
Baltics? That like,
just
oh yeah, if they
people
get
by virtue of emigration,
attacked
and
because of the
obviously
position. Okay,
humanitarian
Finland
toll of
wasn't
the
around
war.
at the time. But because of the
but
position, we're just going
it's
to like
still
allow Russia to take
exporting.
it, and
It's
then
found
while Russia
ways
takes it,
around,
we'll
Russia's
prepare
sort of like
forces,
assault on
and
the
then
Black
we'll go
Sea.
and liberate it.
The economy in
You
the
fucking
western
won't.
part of the country is still
It's bullshit.
functioning.
You fucking will not.
But it
The
nonetheless
second
obviously
they
needs
take roots in
just
a
an
land
obscene amount of money
that's that.
to
You will
fund
not
its
go and
military.
liberate land that's already
I think
overrun.
it requires something like $20 billion in aid last
So
year.
yeah,
And at the moment,
I'm
there are
not
two
too
aid
positive on it,
packages. There's one in
definitely.
America
I do
worth
think
$60
Poland,
billion, which
and
is
definitely
being
in that
held up by
situation
essentially
with Baltics,
Republicans who
Finland is going to
want
be a strong
fold it
ally.
into a wider debate about
Both of them do
border,
understand
the
what the
southern
Russian
border in
threat
the US.
means.
Okay.
Both of
Republicans
them
say that
would be
the Biden administration is only going to get its Ukraine aid funding if it
stronger
agrees to
allies
harshening measures
than like the
on
likes of
the southern
USA.
border with Mexico.
And also, you
And
know,
then
big
there's this
Western
50 billion
Europeans, but I don't know.
multi-year Ukraine facility aid package being debated by the EU. But that's
I
being held
don't
up by
know
Viktor
if they
Orban.
would be
And,
strong
this
enough.
podcast will probably come out
Because we've
on
seen
Thursday, which is the day
pro-Russian
that
voices in both of
Orban
them,
and the
right?
other
So
EU
like,
leaders
it's
are
not
meeting
like
to try and
either of them
try and
are
agree on something.
completely and fully.
So you probably know more than we do
On
this, but
board.
even if that goes through, you know, that's
Yeah.
a 4-year package that takes you through to 2027, and that means about 12. What's it, it does mean 12.5 billion euro a year. That isn't enough alone. Obviously, there are bilateral commitments being made by other EU member states, but actually,
12.5 billion euros per
the
year.
main
Holy
question is
shit,
really about the
tons.
American aid package, and that's what the Ukrainians really need.
Americans,
So yeah, all in all,
they're asking about
it's not looking particularly
Americans.
rosy for them. I mean,
The main
you can
question is
overstate
American
these
package.
things. Like, it's worth saying that militarily, the Russians are really struggling in
It's not gonna be
Avdiivka,
coming.
which they've been trying to take for ages, and they're losing something like 1,000 men a day there and barely making progress.
Wow.
And you know, the Ukrainian economy, again, as I said, is
with the
performing like
investigation
surprisingly
against
well, and
Belarus
things
for
are holding up
journalists.
what it's right. And also the infighting
It's the drugs one, right?
hasn't led to any sort of collapse.
Sorry, I
or
just saw the
anything.
message. I was
Zelensky
going
is
up to
still
look for the
popular.
links.
Polls suggested
It's
about
the
about
drugs one where
60%,
they
although,
put
you know, obviously,
the
Zelensky's is more
hidden
like
security
85,
cameras
90.
in the rooms of
But yeah, things are definitely not as rosy as they were.
in the
and I think
rooms
what
of
worries well,
investigative
commentators is that
journalists,
you enter a
specifically
sort
investigative
of,
journalists who are quite
downward
active
spiral,
in
because when things are
pointing
going
out
badly for
corruption.
Ukraine,
I have
there's a
seen
sense-
SBU has
I
been.
don't think this is a
Am I
justified
mistaken on this?
sentiment, but there is a
SBU
sentiment
has
in
been
some of the
removed
Western public
from
and the political class. They're like, what's the point in spending more money?
investigating these journalists. It
it's
is not
gonna
under
work?
their
Yeah.
And like, obviously
jurisdiction
that is
anymore.
just like
That's the
it's almost
last
just
thing
like
that I've seen
fallacious.
on
That
that.
doesn't really make sense. Of course, there is still value in spending money, even if it's a stalemate, by the way, because you need to spend money to maintain the stalemate.
Hello, I'm a NATO
If you
man.
cut
I
off
looked at
funding, then
papers
you
in
no longer have a
Baltics
stalemate,
leaders
you
forgot
have
one
Russia winning.
signature,
And
so they
also,
actually
you know,
not NATO
the
members.
money-
Yeah, something like that. No,
promise of money will
genuinely,
affect
I would genuinely
Ukraine's
expect that.
negotiating power,
Or like
because if Russia
condemning
knows
them, you
that
know,
Ukraine is
doing
running
the
out of
whole
money,
thing with like,
then
oh
obviously they
guys,
have far more
we are
leverage. So, I mean, that
strongly
argument doesn't
condemning
really stand
Russian
up on
aggression
its-
in
on its
Baltics.
on its own 2 feet.
Russia, stop.
But there is the worry.
Russia, stop. Come on, Putin, stop.
Negative spiral.
Go, stop.
So yeah, I think
And
that's
just
about it,
it's just that.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Yeah.
Nothing
Myriad
else really.
issues.
maybe they impose some new sanctions.
Rory, what do you make
For a
of
while.
this for Ukraine's
while.
long-term prospects?
Yeah.
And whether
But also, I'm
kind
kind of scared of the whole Western
back to it was
conversation right
interesting.
now. I'm seeing lots of
Things that I've
talks
got
about
particularly
Nadezhdin. By the way, I'm seeing that he's not allowed to run. Is Nadezhdin really not allowed to run? Because I'm seeing someone pissed off about it on Instagram yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I don't care about the old fuck.
Within Ukraine and
Didn't give enough shits to Google him.
As the war has dragged on,
But I'm seeing lots of
other
Westerners
Ukrainian figures like
genuinely
Zelensky
hope that he's
also,
going to be like the
Lieutenant
democratic
Klitschko,
change in
Mayor
Russia.
Kiev,
So
who
that's
is also feuded with
making me a
Zelensky
bit
as well.
concerned.
No, I can't remember either. I'm afraid.
I think at this point, if you
Yeah.
trust in something like
And
that,
so you start to see these other figures
you're
kind of
incredibly
being
stupid.
quite vocal in their opposition, or at least
But
different
also,
in
I
opinion
don't
to
trust you if a
Zelensky.
NATO country gets
That
attacked.
is damaging, I think, for the Ukrainian.
Like when I
cause as a
see
whole,
people
because
from
if Zelensky
foreign
can't
countries being like,
go to other
maybe
countries
Russia actually
and
can change.
really
You're a
speak
fucking
with the
idiot.
full backing of Ukraine
You're a
behind them, it's
fucking
not hard
idiot.
to convince those countries
If
to
Nadezhdin gets
send
into
him support
power,
if
you would
Ukraine
happily
is
buy
divided
their
on
gas
strategy.
and then allow them to run over the
I also
Baltics.
think,
You're a goddamn idiot.
This
how
actually
the
ties
fuck?
in with a podcast we did a
Man's
few
not even
episodes
in
ago
opposition
about how
properly.
Europe is preparing for a Trump presidency.
Oh yeah,
Macron,
true. It
French
was that.
president said
It was
something,
like you're allowed
just the
to
other day,
have
I think
a
it might have been
specific
yesterday,
threshold of
where he
fake
said
votes,
Europe has to be ready to defend and support
right?
Ukraine, whatever
And then
America
he
decides.
had
So
more
he's
than
saying,
that of like
regardless
fake
if
votes,
Trump is
supposedly,
re-elected, we have to double down on our support
to
for
allow
Ukraine.
him to run.
So there is
Yeah,
that
true.
fear that we are at a real inflection point now where
True.
support for Ukraine
Wait,
really
I wanted
could
to click on the
collapse.
linkies and I didn't click on
If,
the linkies.
Macron gets his way, he wants to
I
see Europe
didn't.
really kind of fill in the gap if the US steps
I'm
back
waiting
from
for them to move on to the tier
but
list.
also
So
one thing I
far,
hadn't
it's
thought
just
about until you said it was
the
that
podcast.
it's possibly easy to be overly pessimistic because when I think about all the, I don't know how many
Bro,
times
like
Russia
literally
has kind of
everything they
reshuffled.
touch just gets destroyed.
російськими авіабомбами.
Everything they come close to just absolutely
Це
demolished.
сталося буквально за
Tucker Carlson, as far as I think he didn't.
Просто не
As far as
впізнати.
I think he didn't. So,
Буквально все рівняється бомбами разом з місцевими мешканцями.
he said he's gonna interview him. I don't know when the interview is getting out. Because there's some like timeline questions. Because how was it? The Russian propagandists have said that he interviewed him, but he said in that video that he is going to interview him. Like, did he already interview him? Is he going to? Who the fuck knows? It's gonna be a bullshit interview regardless. So, I don't really know how much I care about it at all. I wasn't really following it either in the first place. I want anyone but Putin. There's no one else, dude. Yeah, it's like your options really are being GG with Putin winning or starting a revolution. That's that. It's Russia. You don't have other options. Oh, I'm not gonna go out to vote. You're okay with him winning. Like, you know he's gonna win. He's not even gonna count the votes. It doesn't matter. You could get like half the fucking country to go into the voting booth and draw dicks and balls on the ballot. He would still have the same amount of votes. He doesn't count the votes. Like, you're just playing along with these stupid ass elections.
Місце найстрашніших
Yeah, what's your favorite time?
руйнувань.
He's gonna be like, no, Mr. Putin, are you concerned about the rise of extremism in Europe? And then Putin is gonna be like, oh yeah, lots of far-right parties in Europe are getting a lot of power. And we'll see that also in Ukraine. That was really dangerous for us here in Russia. Yes, we need to defend our people. Europe really seems to be going down some really bad path. Spreading rumors, and it's not the excuse for 30+ people operation to catch one girl using MDMA. Yeah, it's a bullshit. It was a bullshit operation. Also, fucking SBU. In times of fucking war, that's what you got I'm worrying about? That didn't have anything smarter to fucking do? Come on. If you were going to plant goddamn secret cameras in people's offices, I'm pretty sure there's like a bit more important targets for this.
We do expect to have the capacity, the production capacity.
Having
to do
watched
something
One Piece,
like 1.4
Mr.
million
Putin.
shells a year.
Who's your favorite character?
By basically 2020. So this year, but 2024.
Oh shit, yeah, I
And
forgot
the
that.
Americans have already ramped up
Nah, that would be
to
Hassan.
what
That would
they
be
expect to ramp
Hassan.
up something like 1.2
Oof.
million shells a year by 2025. which is genuinely about it's about 10 times what they're currently producing.
But like that fucking idea.
And
Hello,
so,
I'm a
like,
NATO
if,
man. And
you know,
Baltics don't have
in
a
the best
signature.
case
I mean,
scenario,
true.
Europe, this is from
Fucking
Ukraine's
true.
perspective, Europe rebuilds its defense base in anticipation and anxiety of
ICBM
the Trump
factory?
presidency. We get to that
Yeah.
desired shell capacity, and then we get a Biden re-election, which means that you now have a Europe with a domestic defense base and an America with a
So
base and an
operation
industrial base
works
that already existed,
against
obviously.
Zelensky. Why
Supplying Ukraine.
the journalist
But
operation?
the best case
But they
scenario,
were
it's just that is everything's quite precarious. and a lot
working
hinges on
to
a whole load of
uncover
contingencies which
corruption
are just way beyond
happening, right?
Ukraine's control.
Like, I'm
But
not
yeah,
sure if
so
they're the main
again, I think it's easy to be too pessimistic about it, but things are definitely
main targets.
slightly on the downhill. The one other thing I
You want to
think
be
is worth
focusing
saying
on
is that
in the middle of
I think
wartime.
in the,
Not really
America
sure
still
that
is
like
the
the
most
main country
important
enemy.
supporter for Ukraine.
As
even
long
if
as
it's
they weren't,
financially
spreading around
actually
propaganda or
outside
whatever,
by
but
the
doing
EU.
genuine
But it just still is
investigative
because
work.
of the
Yeah.
military technology and all that sort of shit. Basically, just because of the military tech. But I think a lot of the
1,300 kilometers from
American,
Ukraine?
the
They're
waning
intended to carry
enthusiasm for
nuclear
Ukraine is a
warheads.
symptom of the fact that America is just tied up in too many wars at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're an average American, you might be enthusiastic about Ukraine.
How they handled
but
the
once you see,
situation
I've
made
got
Zelensky's
Ukraine, we've got
close
tensions
circle
in
at least.
Israel,
versus...
we've got renewed
Oh,
tensions in North
yeah,
Korea,
I see that.
we've got Taiwan.
I see that, I see that, I
all of
see
a sudden
that.
you're feeling a bit
Yeah,
tired.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think they all sort of get unfairly grouped into the
Man.
same sort of like, what are we doing with all these wars?
Yeah.
And so
It's-
I do
it's-
think that
it's so,
for
you know,
long-term support for
expected in a
Ukraine to be
way,
completely
but, like,
sustainable, you just do need a calmer geopolitical
such
environment
goddamn
elsewhere.
drama in the middle of a
And so,
goddamn
if I
war
was-
for
if I was
existence.
the
Why do we
Biden-
need
this is
this
a little
shit?
tip, Joe.
Why do we?
If
Is
I
this
was the
really
Biden administration, I
something
would
we
be
could use
prioritising
right
trying to
now?
calm things down
No,
elsewhere.
Zelensky's
They probably are, to be
GG.
fair to them, but, like,
Zelensky's GG.
that
It's
is the,
just
I think that is they feel like separate things, but actually, like, I do think so much of like the
It's
attention and enthusiasm
very
for
hard
Ukraine
to
depends on their. It
be
depends on it being able to dominate the
an
headlines and like
Yes.
being the war as
imperfect
opposed to like being
country
one of
in
the
the
many
middle
wars.
of a war for existence.
But yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
So that's my thing about it.
Like when it comes to corruption cases and
Sorry,
everything
that
in
didn't really
Ukraine,
end
it's
anywhere.
not something
I
that could
also
have been
just- the
solved
last thing I'll say is it's
quickly,
so
and it's
passionate.
definitely
Do
not
you
going to be
think there
solved
is
quickly. It takes years to
like,
fight against that shit, and most of us
not
still
like
haven't
I don't think moral
properly
obligation
fought
is too
against
sort of, like,
it. I
strong
do
and
believe
almost,
for a
like,
lot of our
soppy.
countries, we
But, like,
still
it's just in
are
Europe's
very, very
interest
corrupt. We're just
to more
hiding it better
actively
than we used to
support
hide it
Ukraine.
before we
It really
entered the
doesn't cost us
European
very
Union, for
much money,
example.
like in the grand scheme of things. I
So,
think when you take this Ukraine support facility, which has proven so
I
good to
think
be
it's
controversial,
very
50 billion
hard
euros,
to be a
Yeah.
country
and you
attempting
spread it
to
out
improve itself
over 5
while
years, yeah,
at
it's
the
10 roughly
same
10
time
billion
having to
euros.
fight
Yeah.
a war for
That
existence.
is 0.07, 0.0. I mean, it's
I don't
less
think
than
he's necessarily
0.1%
bad. I just think
of
the
our
system is the
GDP.
way
Like,
it is.
it is just something we can afford. And you could,
I think it's just Russian propaganda. I do think it looks rather bad if SBU is sent on to
0.25%
you know,
of GDP or something like that.
put
Which
secret
is just not,
cameras
just not a very big number. And I appreciate that,
in
like, budgets are
rooms
strained and
of
that you might want to.
investigative journalists. I do
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it
everyone has
looks
spending
rather
priorities.
bad.
Yeah.
I
But
do think
that
it
would
looks
be
rather
sort of
bad.
decisive. That would
Now,
be,
they
I
did
think,
say it was
more than
because
enough to guarantee
some of the
at least a
members of the
stalemate.
team were apparently buying drugs.
And I think that's just in your
And
strategic
yeah,
interest.
drugs are
Like,
illegal.
You forget the alternative,
So-
the worst case scenario is that you end up with a sort of like
I understand the
you've got a
explanation
rump of
in
Ukraine
that
that is
sort
dominated by
of
Russia on NATO and EU border.
scenario. It just
And that would just be in every sense more costly.
I
I mean,
don't
even
know.
just sort of like
Is
the
it
amount
really-
of money
is
you'd
it
then just
really
have
a
to spend on
priority?
NATO preparations, you know, making sure you have a sort of
do we
bolstered
not have
Baltic
smarter
flank.
things to do?
That would outspend whatever you're going to have to spend to keep Ukraine in like a stalemate or even in like a slightly positive attritional state. So I just think it's short-termism, and like I understand there are
Short-termism?
competing spending priorities, but I do think that you're just forgetting how costly the worst-case scenario is.
Oh, okay, fair.
And we're talking about the kind of the
Kremlin
negatives,
claim
the
this and
troubles
this
that
country
Ukraine are having
evil,
right now, and then
SMO
you're also
and
saying
then
about
global
not
dodges up and
overstating
Russia
those
while massacres
troubles.
are popping
Yeah.
up, definitely.
On balance,
Definitely. They're cheering them now.
where do we land?
Well,
Do we land in the
Absolutely,
middle? Do we
definitely,
land that
fucking
things
definitely.
are still? It
We're gonna see the
depends on Trump,
leftists
it
in the
depends
West
on
going, oh yeah,
spending,
guys,
there's lots of
Russia is
things
just
we
trying to
can't
defend
anticipate?
itself from
Or
evil,
is it
evil
that things
USA.
are getting notably better or worse on the whole, would you say?
Russians bought those journalists and then bought SBU. Okay, I don't even think
I'm still taking this clip.
I don't think necessarily Russians have to be involved in that specific situation. I think there's a big possibility. It's just
but the consensus amongst well-versed analysts does seem to be
governmental.
It's an attritional battle, but at the moment Ukraine is losing.
Fight for power in a way.
Slightly less attritional power, and they will be.
Like I don't necessarily believe
Russians
Russians
that probably doesn't mean very much on the ground. The amount of territory they'll be
involved. Of course, it's a possibility. Of course, it's a possibility, and they do have their dirty little hands everywhere.
You're not seeing massive counteroffensives, but
until we know something more,
the Russians do have a manpower advantage, probably. Ukraine
to me, it just doesn't seem like a very strongly huge dramatic situation.
To Bakhmut for super understandable reasons.
I don't know if it's the Balkans from me speaking, but like
there's been a dispute between.
It doesn't seem like something too unexpected, if that makes sense. It doesn't seem like something too
sort of non-reservist recruitment age, which is currently at 27, I think.
Big.
And
of a story.
Yeah, and also Russia currently has an advantage.
I would expect if it was a Russian operation, they would be doing a lot more.
Recent comments from the EU suggest that might change. Maybe
piece of USSR leftovers. Yeah, like that. Yeah. And it's it's not surprising. It's not that surprising, and it's not even that bad.
I actually think
like when I say it shouldn't be
European and American funding. But from Russia's perspective, so much depends on oil prices.
Priority of SBU to be doing that right now. I'm not saying that in a way to condemn the entire thing of it. It shouldn't be priority. They definitely do have other things to be worried about at the time. But it's not like a horrible thing that has happened.
So I think that is another thing that has
to be Tucker's family and need the remains and shoot them up, and Tucker would still Putin. It's like with Russians.
Russia has a slight.
It's like with Russians. Always remember someone making the joke that Putin could come into their house. Of like any Russian, he could come straight into their house. He could fuck their mother right there in front of them, and he could say that somehow this is the fault of Ukrainians, and the Russian would go and enlist in the military to go kill Ukrainians to get revenge.
Then all of a sudden, the balance of power in those negotiations becomes very
different. Not the all criminal agents.
Basically, at the moment, Ukraine is losing the attritional war.
Like proper way of
optimism, especially that comment from Brett
proper amount
today about
of being worried about the situation.
And also again,
$350 billion on rearmament, $300 billion have been frozen due to sanctions.
Any final thoughts, Rory, or are you just agreeing with the well-versed?
They lost $1.2 trillion, the most expensive Olympic Games in history in 2018.
It's such a good.
But there's no money for hospitals. It's better to have an HIV rate worse than Nigeria. It depends on how much they care about.
Okay, so let's close with the world leader
leaderboard. You know how sometimes people will make a claim like, oh yeah, USA has enough money to be giving it in aid to other countries. Why doesn't it have enough money to be given to homeless around USA? And then the reason is that it's not a budget problem at all in any sort of a way. It's a political problem. USA doesn't want to implement certain social safety nets. It's like that. Russia has money for proper hospitals. Russia has enough money to do some extra bullshit on the side. Their economy is not yet fucked enough for them to actually be crumbling apart as a country and not be able to sustain hospitals. They just don't want to. They don't really give a shit. Well, USA took Baltics from Russia and Ukraine and Moldova. Yeah, true though. USA told them to separate. I heard it from proper sources. Hassan.
As always then, Rory and Zach have both prepared one person who they think has done well this week and one person they think has done badly this week, who we're going to shift on our world leader leaderboard.
I'm almost like happy that he's not even talking about this at all. He's focusing on
very transitory
what's happening in Gaza. I'm so fucking happy.
Let's start with you, Rory, and let's start with your winner of the week.
My winner of the week
Yeah, let me see
possibly
the
controversial
list.
Joe Biden, because he hasn't had too many good weeks
Joe Biden?
recently.
He's sneaking off
He
the
put
board.
Joe Biden as
there's
the winner. I
one-
disagree with that.
I'm putting him up for one reason, and that's because
I
this
disagree with that.
Iran-backed militia in Iraq called, I don't know how you say it, but Kataib Hezbollah.
Yeah, Kataib, I think. But
There you go. Has announced that it's going to suspend its attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq, and this came after 3 U.S. Servicemen were killed by drone attack. That was on the Jordan-Syria border, so slightly different area, but within the same conflict. So in response to those 3
I disagree
US
with that
deaths,
anyways.
Joe Biden had been
I
saying, like, we will
disagree. I
respond, we're
disagree
gonna
with
work out how we
everything
do it,
he
and
has.
we'll
That
do
Joe
it when
Biden
we want to
belongs
do it.
in C
But
tier at
this,
best.
This
Is
Iran-backed
that- is
militia,
that-
without
is that-
the US
is
even
this
really responding, has
true?
said, yeah, we're going to stop this. And their actual reason was, or their given reason was, in order to prevent
they
embarrassment of the
have
Iraq
that?
government.
Where's Milanovic?
And this is
Never
only
had
one militia,
Milanovic around.
there's
Yeah.
plenty of Iran-backed ones. But I think that is a positive sign for
Why is
Biden.
Orban
even
there?
without
Why
a
is
mega
Orban
response
not
to
at
these
the
deaths,
bottom?
that at least one Iran-backed group has stepped back. And presumably they didn't do it on their own kind of volition. It was just maybe they had some words from someone in Iran telling them to calm things down a bit. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's a pretty good sign for Joe.
No,
I think
Americans
also
like
yet
Joe
more
Biden.
evidence. This thing we've been arguing. Well, I've been arguing on this channel. This is like an editorial line.
I think
that
Americans
Iran
have
does want de-escalation.
Yes, yeah.
very
I think that's
limited
really, really fair.
options.
But yeah, I think that is probably.
I
the
think
most,
I think their
Yeah.
options
Okay.
on who they're going to like
Zach,
and
who's
who
your
they're
winner of
going
the
to
week?
dislike
My win of the week
are
is
very
going to be Macron.
limited.
I just,
Of course.
I just love putting him up.
So, you know,
I think
it's like,
he's my win
you
of the
don't
week,
like
something we've
Biden?
just been
Okay,
talking
I
about,
have
which
to
is
like him.
that I think
There's
his
lots
course
of
for strategic autonomy
politicians
look ever more
that
prescient. And I
we
also
don't
think
like.
that Breton's recent comments suggest that actually Europe is making
but
strides in developing its defence industrial base. Which is something
Who's
Macron's been
your
calling for
alternative to
years, and
like
especially
more?
dramatically recently, but yeah, for years. So I
Yeah,
think he's
I
winning that.
really
I also
think
think
you have
we talked
someone.
about this a bit, maybe
So it's,
but
you know.
not on camera last podcast, but I do think his sort of cabinet shake-up is cabinet, yeah. His cabinet
Theme
shake-up
of
has
a
sort
former
of paid
UPSA
off. Like
soldier
it
of
has
Ukrainian
added
origin
at
who
least like
fights in
an
Alpharus.
aura of novelty
Yeah.
and
Half
energy.
of the stream
to what
NSF Twitch
has
slash
previously looked
address
quite
of
a tired
Zelensky and Yermak,
administration.
so it's both propaganda and
so
raising
yeah, I think those
negativity
are
among the
those are my two
soldiers.
things.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh shit, yeah.
Unfortunately, now we need to
Yeah, could
less
be, could
happy
be, could
part. Rory, who is your loser of the week?
Oh man, that could be
I
really
hate to move him
fucking
down, but
dangerous
Pedro
if he gets a
Sanchez,
lot of
Spanish Prime Minister.
foothold.
Okay.
He's been pretty high up.
He has. He's doing
Oh,
well.
So
corruption
he's
either
going down
way.
the right. This is because
There's real
lawmakers
ways
in
that
Spain's
these
lower house,
people
they
are
voted down
impacting
the
the way
government's,
USA
amnesty
interacts
law,
with the
amnesty bill,
world.
which would grant amnesty to Catalan separatists who are being prosecuted
So,
because of the
On one
2017
hand, I definitely
illegal
disagree.
referendum.
All politicians are corrupt. I
so
come from
the
Balkans.
interesting thing about
It's
this
like
is that
it's
it
an
was
it's a
voted
natural
down
position. The
because
second you get the
most
job of a politician, you're very likely corrupt.
separatist
You're
group
very
voted
likely engaged in
against
something.
it,
It's
even
very
though
rare
they were
that they
the
are
ones
not.
who the bill were trying to win over.
The problem is that there's
Then
still
he
a
said it didn't
big,
go far
big
enough 'cause he didn't
difference
offer
between
full
the
protection
way that
against a range
two
of other,
corrupt people
possible
interact
charges.
with the world.
So they voted
Specifically,
with the
if you
Conservative
look at
opposition
Biden right now
against
and,
this
for
bill.
example, Trump,
I
one of
think
them
in the
is
immediate term, I don't think
obviously
it really
a
matters too much for
vastly
Sanchez
better
because
option than
this
the
bill
other
will
one,
now go
even
back
if
to
you
the
don't like
Parliamentary
him.
Commission where they'll have more negotiations and try and kind of hammer things out.
I feel
But I
for
think what it does
USA,
show
not even
is
for
the
Americans.
real
I feel it's mostly
fragility
like
of his
social
position
media
and his
Americans
government's
thing because they
position,
very much
they-
doubt that
he's
actual
only in
IRL
power because he
Americans
managed
are
to win
that
over
dumb.
these Catalan
But I
separatist
feel on
parties
social media
on the
it's
promise
very
that he
often
would introduce
forgotten that these
legislation
people
that
have
would
a
grant
real
amnesty.
impact on the rest of the world.
And yeah, so it means every piece of legislation going forward, he needs to kind of cobble
We
together
can all
this
hail
slightly
Zelensky.
weird mix of smaller parties, including
But there are
separatist
huge
ones.
problems in the front line,
and
half
that's
of
just,
which is weak
the
support from
fact
the
that
West.
even this one,
Another
he
half
couldn't
is
get
poor
past them
political
suggests
decisions
that
these 2 years.
every
Yeah,
piece of legislation is going to be difficult for him.
that too,
and
that
it's
too,
always going
that
to be a
too.
risk that they vote
Do you
down.
think
I guess
the
ultimately
poor
it would be a
political
budget or something
decisions
that
part
would
is going to
collapse
change?
his government, but yeah, so that it just highlights how difficult his job for the next 4 or so years will be.
Didn't-
I think.
I often feel like when you're in the position he was in, like a
Wasn't
year
there
ago,
someone else
you just
implemented
let the other
recently?
side have
Yeah.
it. Like it's clearly going to be difficult to govern.
Yeah.
Just let them have it.
Who
Who
fully
did
He's
alone.
Zelensky
such
implement
a,
someone recently? He implemented
political
someone
survivor.
new. He
Like,
put
in
someone
his
new
whole
in a
career, he's
position just
managed
a few
to
days
pull
ago
off
to like
pretty
modernize the
crazy,
military
like,
of Ukraine, right?
comeback.
Do you think
So
it's going
this
to
is just
create
yet
any
another one of
changes?
those, so
Yeah.
maybe don't bet against him, but yeah, that's
He's
who
still
will
on the
move
top
down.
half of the board.
He's doing
but
well. Yeah.
He's
Social media?
sliding.
Yes,
Zach,
running
who is
America.
your
Yeah,
loser
it's
of
a
the
big,
week?
it's a
My
very
loser
very
of the
concerning
week
thing to
is
watch.
going to be Viktor Orban.
Like people
Oh,
making
okay.
their choices on who they're going to vote for
We did a
based
video
on
on this
like
today, but this
dumbass
is
Twitter
mainly
threads they've seen and shit
apropos
like
of
that.
this
It's very
Financial Times report suggesting that the EU was
It's very
considering
worrying, of course.
to basically actively cripple Hungary's
Trumpists own
economy, and
Russia
specifically its like ability to
as
borrow
their
money,
slave state.
the Hungarian state's
It's their
ability to borrow
cheap
money.
resources.
If Hungary didn't sign off on the Ukraine aid facility,
I
that we were
have an
talking about, Ukraine
impression
facility,
they
rather.
would love to think that.
In a sense, it's not bad for Orban because
I have an
he sort of-
impression
it
they would
bolsters
love
his,
to
like,
live in
anti-Brussels
such a
credentials.
world.
It plays well to his domestic base. There's also a sense
But
in which
I
it's
definitely
like he's brought the EU
believe
down to his level.
they just lost control over
He's
Putin.
been
I
using
mean,
sort of leveraging his veto, and now the EU are
I
sort
mean,
of like,
he's
they're
been
doing their own form of blackmail.
in leadership for quite a long
But I
time.
think in the aggregate,
And also
it's bad
trying
for
to
him, because I think it is a testament
control
to the fact that
USA
the rest
for
of
a
the EU
very,
really,
very
really
long
is
time.
fed up with
Yeah.
him.
He could
I
be
think
the
that was
reason they
fine
lost
a couple
control
years
over
ago,
him, like
when I don't think there was
decade
a sense
ago?
of sort of like geopolitical
a bit more than a
urgency
decade ago.
in the EU. But I
Could
think
be,
now
could
that
be, could be.
most of the EU just wants to get stuff done and realize that you sort of really need to get stuff done if you want to sort of stay afloat in the like ever more
Yeah, having any
hostile,
resource you
global
need is
world.
one thing, but having control
I think
over
that the patience will really wear thin. I think this was probably
global
not the last like drastic effort you'll see
way
from the
that
EU,
resources are
to
being
bring Orban on side. I
spread
do
is
wonder
a
whether or
different
not
one.
his,
Even if you have all
like,
of the resources
current
that you need
position in
as
the EU
USA,
is sustainable. I mean,
controlling
it's one of
another
those things where,
country
like,
that
it's like,
has
oh,
a
you
lot
can't
of
actually
natural
kick them out,
resources
and all
would
that sort of
still
thing.
be
But I
a
think
great
there's-
benefit.
most
Not
recent
that I
things shown
think
is
they
that
need it.
sure, you
Not
can't kick
not
them
that
out,
I
but
think
there
that
are
Russia
things you
can
can
be
do.
under
Yeah.
control by
Um,
USA.
And
I definitely
so far
believe
the
Russia
EU's
is
been wary of like
its
stooping to
own
his level, as it were. But I think that
active
now
agent.
the gloves are off. Sort of.
Yeah.
Russia is doing things
I also think the other things we
that
talked about in
their
the video,
people
is the
perceive are
Hungarian
in the
economy is in a
interest of
pretty
Russian
precarious
state.
position, and it's bolstered by the fact that Orban has played done quite a good job of like appealing.
Well, I want to click on the linkies. They already put Biden up there, and I already disagree with that. So let me do my clicks. A university student, Andrei Vasyurenko, sentenced to 9 years in a prison colony for talking to others about his support for an independent Republic of Karelia. Hey! Hey, yo, Karelia, 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 getting free. Poor little man, though. But Karelia getting free. Yeah. Get more attention. Get more attention. I agree with that. Proper opinion. Karelia will get rid of Moscow's trying to rule over it very, very soon. One battalion commander in a mechanized brigade fighting in eastern Ukraine said that his unit currently has fewer than 40 infantry troops. A battalion commander said the companies in his unit, on average, are staffed at about 35% of what they should be. I know that Dobson has been talking a lot about Ukraine wanting to conscript, was it 500,000 people? Yeah, I think it was. So I'm guessing the need for that conscription to actually be successful and to go underway as soon as possible is why we are having these chaos situations on the front line. Does them even need Karelia? Needing it is one thing. Getting rid of Moscovians occupying another part of the world is another. I think Karelia should have a ability to fight for its own independence, and I do think if we are lucky, it's gonna reach it. Now, what are they going to do once they get autonomy is a whole other question, but they have the right to get rid of Russians occupying the land. Fewer than 14 troops, soldiers deployed in frontline trenches to hold off Russian assaults. A fully equipped battalion would have more than 200. Proper training, equipped with good stuff, aka Western full support. Absolutely, but I very much doubt we're gonna see Western full support coming anytime soon. Which, like I saw Scholz today, I got him in the news recommended to me, Scholz being like, oh yeah, we really need to step up, it's going to be really expensive for us if Ukraine loses. Good, are you doing it? No. it's just a string of them being like, guys, we gotta help Ukraine. Guys, we gotta help Ukraine. Guys, we're gonna be continuing to support Ukraine. Guys, Ukraine needs to get our help. Okay. And then they just do the bare minimum. It's sad. It's fucking sad, isn't it? Like, come on. Finns had a chance to buy Karelia in 90s. They declined. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that getting it would also mean that you get extra Moscovians with the land. Which, wouldn't really be good for the state. But maybe if there's an actual revolution happening within Russia and they manage to kick out the invaders, it would actually be a land worth to have as part of your country. It really depends. It really depends on how you look at the situation. Like, I wouldn't want a fucking country that a fucking land that's inhabited by Russians as part of my country either. It's going to get you invaded. You don't want that shit. 90% of those conscripts will be people who support the army now with money and volunteer work. And when they go to the front line, there will be only 17-year-old Twitch generals left. Oh shit. I mean, it does seem realistic. It does seem realistic, doesn't it? Because, like, you gotta conscript adults. You will be conscripting adults. And I do imagine there's going to be a number of people willing to volunteer. It's just people who are genuinely good people, and losing them, any of them, is going to be an immense tragedy. Just a sad fucking situation overall. I wish we were given more. I wish we were helping a lot more and a lot faster. Native language, it's Croatian. It's Croatian. I am from Croatia originally. I'm just trying to use English in some acceptable form. Give Russia half a land and hope they get into NATO. I was thinking about that. In a way, that's a horrible idea. And I think people arguing for it are blind fools. In a way, that's a horrible idea. If Russia gets any sort of a victory, it won. Any sort of a victory, an inch of land, they won. And if they won, like, it doesn't matter, it's not a complete victory, it's a victory. Their allies will not be like, did Russia get everything it wanted? Did it achieve all of its goals? Did it achieve one of them? Did it achieve half of one of them? It doesn't matter. They get an inch. They won. That's it. That's a victory. And what happens is you're going to see them supported a lot more by their allies. You're going to see China, you're going to see North Korea, and you're going to see Iran giving them a lot more support. They're going to attack again, and this time they will be better supplied. You give them a fucking inch. That's that. You're strengthening their alliance, because now they look like victors. And now all of the countries that are against USA and against NATO and against the rotten West are going to side with Russia, because Russia has successfully defeated NATO itself. It doesn't matter what they get. It doesn't matter if they get the entirety of occupied lands, or if we go, who was it? Was it Duda? Who recently said that, like, oh yeah, Ukraine's definitely gonna liberate eastern Ukraine, but I don't think they're gonna be able to liberate Crimea. Maybe Crimea is gonna stay in Russian hands. Anything that stays in Russian hands, it's a victory for Russia. It's going to be perceived as like full, complete victory of Russia. It doesn't matter that their goals used to be different. You give them like one fucking village, that's going to be a victory. You give them anything, it's going to be a victory. Holy crap, you return the soldiers alive to them, it's going to be seen as some sort of a victory, because they managed to do lots of murder while they were around. Whatever you do with Russia, it's going to be seen as victory of Russia. So, Oh, the fact the West has given more doesn't mean that the West has given enough. It hasn't given enough. It hasn't given it quickly enough, and it definitely hasn't given it enough in amount. It has given more, but like the standard is already quite low. Basically, NATO has been proven to be relatively useless as an organization. It's not really proven to be very helpful. Yeah, it helped a lot, but not enough. Not enough. Not as much as they can. Not enough. What do you mean everyone's trying to hold the US accountable for not giving enough, but not other countries? You think when they say the West, they mean USA? USA is not the West itself. I mean, maybe you, when you read the West, you think it's just USA. But USA is not the same thing as the West. If we meant specifically USA, we would say specifically USA. Western Europe absolutely falls into what the global West is. I would say Central Europe does. I would say anything but Eastern Europe, really, when it comes to NATO members, falls into the West. So like Germany, France, Spain, Great Britain, definitely the West. Italy, Austria, all of them the West. The line of like what is considered the West is blurry, where it stops in Europe, but USA itself is not the West whole. Eastern Europe is also the West? Yeah, I guess from like Russian position. From Russian position, everything's the West, right? Yeah, the line is Russia. Yeah, basically. Basically that too. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen Scholz getting a lot of shit deservingly for that. I think Britain is the one that I've been seeing ignored a bit more, but also Brits have had some strong moves, so it's understandable that they're getting called out a little bit less. Frenchies have been getting called out really strongly, really often. Previously, especially, now they have also been given some bit stronger moves, but you know, still. Italy, I feel Italy gets ignored in part because Meloni is really loud. So she goes out and she says stuff really loudly, and then people are like, oh yeah, Italy supports Ukraine. It's kind of like with the Brits. When Johnson was around and he was constantly like, oh, we love Ukraine so much, we're going to be continuing to support Ukraine forever. And he was so loud of it. And because he was so loud about his opinions of the situation, it made it seem like Britain itself was way more helpful overall. Saying that they're just kind of being allowed. Some degenerates should have started doing something with military production instead of saying, hey guys, go assemble those FPVs on your kitchens. Okay, yeah, that too. Like I'm just thinking about this. Who did I see having very strong support for Ukraine recently when it comes to just giving aid? Was it Japan recently? Yeah, Japan recently allocated 37 million to provide Ukraine with a drone detection system. 37 fucking million. Like, I feel a lot of us are, falling behind very strongly, considering the fact that we are at danger of getting invaded next, and certainly not Japan. It seems kind of silly. Oh, nothing in the overall scale, definitely. But Putin wants to fight against the West. We are the West. This is a war for our existence. This is a war for our freedom. This is a war for our democracy. The fact that a country which is not even a target of Russian aggression, and is not going to be a target of Russian aggression anytime soon, let's be real, the fact they are giving something and a lot of us are just sitting back lazily, it's ridiculous. It's inexcusable. Like if Russia keeps on going, we're fucked. They want to fight the West. We are the West. We are getting fucked. Estonians are very, very Western people, but nations in the West to us think we're some Soviet leftovers. I had a conversation about this with someone recently. It was a very interesting one. About Hungary specifically. And on how interesting it is that Hungary is a corrupt shithole, but Hungary is perceived as the West more than Eastern European countries, right? Hungary is seen as the West, and because Hungary is seen as the West, we allow their corruption. The level of criticism that Eastern Europe is getting, not even just Ukraine, but of course Ukraine definitely, but when you look at Romania, when you look at Moldova, when you look at Eastern Europeans getting attacked really, really strongly for their corruption levels, and then you see Hungary just getting European Union funds over and over and over and over again, and no one's doing anything about it. You see them fighting against European Union, you see them fighting against NATO. They are literally weakening every single alliance they are a part of, and we're allowing it because Hungary is the West, and these others aren't. It's such a stupid thing. It's such a stupid thing. Is the land Russia is attempting to take back, not land that was originally in their ownership? It really depends on where in history you want to go. It is a sovereign country though. Ukraine is a sovereign country with internationally accepted borders. It doesn't matter whose ownership the land used to be decades, centuries back, whoever cares. It is not their land. Ukraine is a sovereign country and Ukraine does have internationally accepted borders. Any breach of these internationally accepted borders must be condemned. Less corrupt than USA, UK, France. Yeah, that's true. But I genuinely think countries in the east of Europe are just perceived as more corrupt just because they are in the east of Europe. Definitely not viewed as some Soviet shithole. Oh, nice. People here are like middle. I don't really think they have exceptionally good nor bad opinions of the Baltics. Until I talk to them, because I force everyone to have very good opinions of the Baltics. I think Baltics are doing amazing. But yeah, it's like, What? One of my history professors classified Russia as the West when talking about the carving up of Syria into different security zones. Russia? Oh, why? Why? Who was the East? What was the East then? What was the East? Like, if you needed to place Russia in the West, surely you had like the opposing side in the East, and you had a reason to place Russia in the West? Why would you do that? In early 2000s, Estonians had cut off the head and hands of their local Lenin statue. Based. Fucking based. Baltic's main problem is Russians. Hey. And I can feel that. Tito sexual? Oh, it's basically we're memeing about our love and liking for the former Yugoslav president Josip Broz Tito. He used to hate Soviets. And I hate Soviets, so we're the same. We're the same, Tito and I. I carry a part of his soul within me. Russia is often considered the West, just because Russia is white and Christian, basically. Oh, so it's like that. So even it's kind of dumbass though, because like they're specifically trying to go against everything the West is supposed to be, right? They hate the West. They despise what the West is. They despise what the West means. And then Bui puts them in the group of the West. I don't know. Why do you hate Soviets? Soviet Union was a horrible country that is very, very luckily gone and dead and rotten right now. It was a shithole. Soviet Union was an absolute shithole. When it came to reasons why Tito hated Soviets, we can start from that. The reason Tito hated Soviets is because when World War II was happening, Yugoslavia was an ally of Soviet Union. We were an ally of Soviet Union. We had partisans at the time fighting against Nazi collaborators in the land. And then what happened is Soviet military came into our country and raped a bunch of our women and beat up a bunch of our men and stole everything they saw in their path. And Tito at the time was like, oh shit, we're actually an ally with Soviets? Why are they destroying us? The fuck is this? Like, we're on their side. So Tito goes to Stalin, and Tito is like, hey, Stalin, can you, like, tell your soldiers not to rape our women? Stalin, can you ask your soldiers to behave like people? And Stalin goes, no, not really. Like, they're young men. What do you expect? That's normal. Just, like, deal with that. We're here to liberate you. You should be grateful. So that's where the whole Tito-Stalin split started. That is where the whole thing started existing. When it comes to the current hatred for Soviets, Soviet Union right now is used only and solely as a jerking off ground for people who support Russian imperialism. So just that, no other reason right now to be supportive of the idea of Soviet Union or the country overall, especially when knowing how many people it has ethnically cleansed, with knowing how much Russification it was doing, with knowing how it was trying to destroy the culture and the people of the areas that it has been occupying. Yeah, absolutely, Holodomor being one of these crimes. It was a horrible country. It was a horrible, horrible country led by a horrible, horrible nation that is still doing crimes of their own because they believe they have the right to lands that they used to be controlling during the time of Soviet Union. The country is rotten and it's dead, and it's good to be rotten and dead. If Ukraine would be viewed as the West, they would get more help. Definitely. But we don't see them as the West. So we don't really help them. And then we blame them for their corruption, despite having corruption here. But when we have corruption here, it's different corruption, because it's the Western corruption. And when Ukraine has corruption there, it's Eastern corruption. It's different. It is different. Just a horrible thing. Corruption is a mythical word that serves to justify any problem in Ukraine for many people in the West. Although many of them can't even clearly describe what corruption is in Ukraine. Yeah, that's true. It's like, yeah, Ukraine was really, really corrupt. Where are you going with that? Where are we going with that? Less Russian language, less what next? I feel I would blame the culture. Mainly. I feel the language isn't necessarily the main way that the culture is spreading if you look at the situation here. The language isn't really the main way that this is spreading, because lots of people here don't speak Russian and never consume Russian content, but they will still happily gobble up whatever they say. It's the culture of just being full of shit. I think there's something quite inviting in it for Western. I don't know if I really want to see losers would be like the proper way to explain it. It's, you know what it reminds me of? You know those people who like jerk off about the idea of the West crumbling and then all of us going back into like the Viking ages or whatever? Because right now they're worthless little hunks and they just exist in basements and, you know, do nothing with their lives. So the idea is that like if the entire society crumbles and a new society is rebuilt, in this new society I might actually be something that's not just a waste of oxygen. I believe that these types of people are the ones that fall for Russian propaganda very easily, for Russian culture, because what Russia tells you is, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to destroy everything the West is. I'm going to destroy the entire society of the West. And then I'm going to build it better. I'm going to build it better. And it would give, you know, a chance for a lot of these people to maybe be something. Yeah. Look how many Russian lovers in USA. True. Oh, and fuck comes in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot about it. Slovaks, I would assume. I'm not sure what their views currently on Soviets are, to be completely honest. I know the Russian threat is healthily perceived, so that's GG. I'm not entirely sure, but like Slovakia overall, in the way that they view the former Soviet Union. They kind of loved Russia and USSR. Yeah, they were... I know they were a bit... But then they did have protests, so who knows. Makes you say USA has Russian lovers? Tucker? Fox News overall? Republicans? Republicans currently? Spreading their ass cheeks for Russia very, very openly. Hasn't Slovakia voted in favor of Ukraine in the EU? Yeah. They used to be quite complicit when it comes to that, but I do think that they have gone on a smarter path in recent years, especially when like the full-scale invasion started. I know previously there was this whole idea of them being relatively okay with both Russia and USSR. I'm not sure about USSR, but like Russia definitely. And okay-ish with USSR. They weren't like seen as enemies of it, you know. But I do think that they are understanding. No, Tucker did that interview with Putin to suck his dick off and then jingle his balls a little bit. Tucker is a traitor to the American state. There's nothing else about it. You do not go and fucking interview a dictator during a genocidal invasion. What did Tucker get from that? He's a traitor to USA. He wants to weaken USA. That's what he got. He gets more maggots and he gets more Republicans believing in Putin's propaganda. That's what he wants. He's a traitor of USA, first and foremost. He's not even a man paid by Putin. I know there's the idea that he's like being directly paid by Kremlin. I genuinely don't think the man is paid by Kremlin. I think he's a traitor to USA. He's just a full-on fucking traitor. Most Republicans are, really. Anti-Turkey, in that it's a Christian European country that tries to position itself as part of the East, whereas Turkey is a Muslim country that tries to secularize and westernize. Kind of interesting though, I don't even know if they are trying to secularize. Hasn't he been really into reviving media demonizes Tucker? No, Tucker is a piece of shit. Tucker is an absolute full-blown piece of shit. I fully disagree with that. Any sort of demonization coming his way is demonization deserved. That man is a waste of breath. And not only is he a waste of breath, he is a traitor to USA and he supports Russia directly. Have you not seen him spreading Russian propaganda around? Have you not seen him spreading propaganda? Have you not seen what Fox News has been doing? Not even just them, but like Republicans overall. But we can also just talk about Tucker. Yeah, we could look into it. We could look. Let me see what you get. Let me see the clips you get easily. I don't have any clips of him saved. I don't have any clips. Oh, the interview with Putin is supposed to be released today, by the way. So, yeah, you wanna see some blowjobs? I guess tune into that shit. Wanna see Russia specifically? Great. Doesn't consider Russia a serious threat to the United States, has called for the United States to work with Russia in the Syrian civil war against a common enemy like the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Great. He's not with Fox anymore. He used to be with Fox. He asserted Putin does not hate the United States as much as American liberals do. He has suggested there is no reason to hate Putin, asking his viewers to consider whether Putin has ever called them racist or threatened to get them fired for disagreeing with him. He has said it's not treason, it's not un-American to support Putin, it's the whole point of America. If Trump were to become president, do you think the war would end? No. No, not at all. Trump is an idiot. Russia knows Trump is an idiot. Russia celebrates the fact Trump is an idiot. Both Trump and Carlson. Russia knows both of these people are imbeciles. Yeah, of course I'm reading Wikipedia. But do you think I'm gonna go to find clips of Tucker Carlson? You're gonna think I'm gonna watch what? His reports? I watch his Twitter reports on, what was it, Gonzalo Lira last, which was full of lies, of course. What else did we see? What else did we see? What else did we see? I think it was that. I think it was Gonzalo Lira. Russia fears... I don't know how to call you retarded without using the word. Are you fucking insane? Are you like fucking insane? They celebrate him. What was the Trumpushka interview? I have the Trumpushka interview for yesterday. Trumpushka report, where they have celebrated the fact let me try to find it. He's been bragging about the fact that Trump is saying USA is gonna go to hell. You seen that? Fuck, I need to find him. I had him somewhere in my I learned the song has a dance, by the way, but I had it in my history for yesterday, and then we didn't watch it. We didn't watch it. But no, man, they fucking adore Trump. He's stupid as shit and they know it. No one fears Trump. Why the hell would you fear Trump? He's an idiot. Oh. Like Russians know Republicans are imbeciles on their side.
Может, для кого-то сейчас это сделает утро добрым. Америка катится в ад.
Are you insane? Have you not seen the way he speaks?
Но это не я.
Ёл! А кто?
Это Трампуша наш.
Трампуша.
Наш Трампуша говорит, что США катится в ад, а Байден уничтожает Америку, заявляет он в интервью Fox News. Эта страна рушится, эта нация рушится, заявляет Трамп. Его слова приводят и на СМИ. Происходит это, по мнению республиканцев, только по вине нынешнего главы Белого дома.
Ну, ничего нового, но это так с утра, чтобы взбодрились, да? Ну, как Трамп хоронит...
Который год хоронит.
Америку, да. Но ты знаешь, что там, по-моему, переплюнуло все, конечно, это вот... страшная для Америки новость. Страшная. Вот это все ерунда. Трамп действительно, ты правильно сказал, который год хоронит. А тут вдруг выяснилось, что Такер Карлсон прокрался в Россию. В Соединенных Штатах отвал башки, взрыв головного мозга. Вот. И все бурлит и фонтанирует. Потому что это заявляют они, там в том числе и высокопоставленные люди, не говоря уже о прессе американской. Ну все, катастрофа. Такер приехал в Москву, сейчас возьмет интервью у Путина, и случится какой-то вселенский конец, глядя на то, что у них происходит. Знаешь, такое катастрофа. Такер Карлсон, не дай бог, поговорит с Путиным. А чего вы так боитесь вообще этого?
А я догадываюсь,
Don't
чего
know
они
how much I would
боятся.
call it disinfo. I could call
Догадываюсь.
it
Но если вот так
propaganda.
серьезно на все это посмотреть,
Ну.
ведь они же не давали никогда интервью Путину
Yeah, Obama
целиком.
also betrayed
То есть
Ukraine,
это
though.
обычно какие-то нарубленные фрагменты, которые не даются
Not like
своим
an Obama.
комментариям. А здесь
I don't
один из
consider him
самых
stupid. I do
популярных
consider
политических
him
журналистов в стране, в мире вообще, в
very
мире. И в стране, как в Соединенных Штатах в частности.
very
Англоговорящий. И
delusional about
это
the state
посмотрит
of
весь
affairs in
интересующийся политикой
Like
мир.
Trump's on a whole
И
another
там будут
level. Trump's
аргументы, а
absolutely
уж
an
не
imbecile.
сочтите это за какую-то паркетную лояльность, но Путин сейчас один из лучших ораторов на политической арене.
Ну, то есть
И
страшно. В Америке паника. Потому что
страна летит в ад.
ну, это сказал Трамп. Вот. А тут, понимаешь, еще если Такер с Путиным поговорит, то тогда вот страна летит в ад покажется таким каким-то легким шорохом, понимаешь?
This man, what do you mean fearing Trump? No one's fearing Trump. Russians know Trump is on their side. They're absolutely on their side. When you hear Trump saying America is going to hell, how it is you take that? I take that as Trump being the same type of an idiot that Russians are, believing in the idea of a rotten West. I think he believes in the idea of a rotten West. He may not call it by that name, but he does follow the same basic principle of the West, crumbling the West, destroying what we call the traditional family values or whatever bullshit. And he believes that because of this, America needs to go back to the proper path, which in the current situation is siding with Russians. And he has been quite open about the fact that he is chill with Russians. He has been quite open about the fact, he has been quite open about his delusion that he's going to end the war in a day, which is ridiculous. And also, like, no fucking way to do that. Not even to mention that people supporting him are literally people who are betraying Ukraine as we speak. The only thing Trump would be able to do if he gets into power to try and get this war ended as soon as possible is he would be able to pull out every single shred of support away from Ukraine, which would still not mean that the war is gonna last only a day. It would not mean ending the war in a day. It would mean a lot of lives lost because an imbecile is allowed to lead the strongest nation in the world. I never said the entire world revolves around Ukraine. We are specifically having a conversation about responses related to Ukraine. Like what? Helping Ukraine defeat Russia absolutely is incredibly important in the current situation. Not only does Trump know this, Trump is arguing for exactly the opposite thing, which is helping Russia. What is that? Oh no. Oh no, did I see that video? Oh fuck, I think I saw the clip of this one. Does the entire world revolve around Hitler invading Poland? Shit, yeah. That's a dumbass thing. But like, it's so stupid, you know? It's like, oh guys, well maybe it's an irrelevant issue for American politics. And then it's a very relevant thing because Trump keeps on bringing it up all the time. He just keeps on bringing it up with his stupid ass way to analyze the situation. Come on.
Complicated military missile defense systems work. Don't worry, the Don has you covered.
These are not muscle guys here, they're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. They've only got 17 seconds to figure this whole thing out, right? Boom. Okay. Missile launch. Pshing, boom.
There you go. Give that guy the nuclear codes right now. If he doesn't become president, he can always do the sound effects for the next Star Wars movie, I reckon. Yeah, exactly. Still in the US, move over Ocean's 11 because a new team of slick master criminals are on the scene.
This trio is being sought.
But like it's dumbass on another level. It's dumbass on another level because like it's talking about a man who obviously cares about the situation. You know what I'm trying to like make you understand how stupid asking that is? I don't know how to make you understand how stupid that question is, right? But it's like, we're talking about the way Trump perceives the situation on ground in Ukraine. Trump acknowledging this is an important topic, but Trump commenting on it in a stupid way because Trump is stupid. So Trump says he could end the war in a day. He is aware that this opinion is an important one because of the current global situation, right? But then, when you approach that situation to say, yeah, it was a very stupid opinion by Trump, then suddenly it's like, does everything revolve around this topic? Does the world revolve around this? Is this the most important thing that you could be talking about?
That died in some wet concrete.
Like a second ago, it was okay to talk about this. A second ago, it was okay to talk about this. While we were supposed to talk about this, were the position of Trump being an imbecile and believing that he could actually end this war, and of Russians fearing fucking Trump coming into power. Then it was okay to talk about this, but now that I'm like, no, this is all delusional. Now it's like, oh yeah, well, you think everything should revolve around Ukraine? I was actually okay with it revolving around me sucking off some Russian cocks, but now that you are placing Ukraine as the good guys in the situation, now I'm kind of against the topic.
This threat died for our city of Chicago, and I wanted to pay my respects.
Oh my, you know the other gift the rat hole keeps on giving? The plague! Now the crowds have gotten so out of hand that in a shocking twist, residents tried to eliminate
yeah,
the
I've got no idea.
by filling it in.
It's a way to try and blame the victim of infection for trying to get a way to defend itself. Like Ukraine did nothing wrong. Ukraine did absolutely nothing wrong. This is not deserved at all in any sort of a way. No. Just, but wait, where was I? Every person who disagrees with me is actually a Russian bot. I mean, they don't even have to be bots. They don't even have to be bots. They could just be Westerners willing to fall into these lies. You know, it's dumb to see. It's dumb to see, and I know that in USA this type of disinformation is very, very rampant, and it's very, very common for them to have several different layers of disinformation for every single political party. So then they have like, you know, it's possible at the same time to be a Republican thinking that Russians are allies of USA because Russians favor the traditional lifestyle. And at the same time, it's possible to be a Republican thinking that Russians fear USA because USA is, you know, the enemy of Russia. And if Republicans get into power, USA is going to get even stronger and Russians are going to fear it even more. It's possible for people of the same voting preference to believe in both cases, because they have different types of propaganda. It's just still fucking stupid to see. Mouth dodged. All my opinions are objectively correct. Look, when it comes to Russians fearing Trump, I am fucking objectively correct. When it comes to some other ones, we can have a discussion. We should do a thing with like adding a channel points command for a debate. But when it comes to Russians fearing Trump, no, that's ridiculous. They know he's the clown. They've openly said he's a clown. Without USA, the country of Ukraine would have been wiped off the map by now. No, not really. No, not really. Ukraine has been fighting Russian aggression since 2014. So that's not really true. Without USA, Ukraine would not be wiped out. Or we can't really say that with certainty. We can't say for how long the war would be lasting if USA... I mean, to be fair, without the country of USA, from another position, Ukraine would still have their nukes. The reason Ukraine does not have their nukes is that Ukraine gave them up because USA promised them security assurances. So, you know, if we're gonna talk about USA influence on the situation in Eastern Europe, I feel it's rather important to focus on overall existence of USA. USA right now, as we speak, with every second, it's not doing something to help Ukraine. USA is pissing on its own written word. USA is showing itself to be a horrible fucking ally. So they're a nation front for many nations. That's true. That's true. Unfortunately, currently one nation seems to be the dominant one in their little stew of nations. UK, yeah, USA, UK, was it France? Budapest. And of course Russia, but like, it's Russia. Oh no, it wasn't. China and France gave somewhat weaker assurances, so France was on the side. True. I love how we're doing the whole striking thing as we speak. Bro, yeah. Soviet nukes that were in Ukrainian possession, they were theirs. What? That's like saying Russia doesn't have their own nukes because these are Soviet nukes left in Russia. Ukraine had their own share of nukes. Ukraine gave them up because USA and UK and Russia signed an agreement promising Ukraine security assurances. Like what? Now, the ability to deploy them and the ability to maintain them is a completely another thing.
Let's say,
but like they gave them up.
You got sent to Siberia.
They gave them up in return for security assurances. It's like with Russia right now. Like, do we know whether their nukes are shit or not? Do we know whether they can even use their nukes? Do we know how many they have? We know nothing, but the fact that nukes exist is immediately a signal that you shouldn't go and attack Russia. Because if you go and attack Russia, you could be fucked in the ass. It doesn't matter. The threat of a nuke is a bigger thing than the nuke itself. Putin knows this. It's why he's been parading around with his threat of nukes all the time, even though we don't even know how much cash money Russia is given to upkeep these nukes. He knows that the threat of a nuke matters a lot, because as long as you threaten using a nuke, no one's gonna touch you. Please call him Snapchat. Just getting everything fucking deleted. Let me try to find you the paper. But all of these deals are basically quite quite vague. All of these deals are quite vague, and it's like, oh yeah, let's sign a deal, and then later we will have a chance to understand it in a way that we like. It is the confirmation, here it is, commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of CSCE Final Act to respect the independence and sovereignty and existing borders of Ukraine. Russian Federation, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirmed their obligation to refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of Ukraine, and that none of their weapons will ever be used against Ukraine except in self-defense or otherwise in accordance with the Charter of United Nations. Russian Federation, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirmed their commitments to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the CSCE to refrain from economic coercion designed to subordinate to their own interests the exercise by Ukraine of the rights inherent in its sovereignty and thus to secure advantages of any kind. They reaffirmed their commitment to seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine as a non-nuclear weapons state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons if Ukraine should become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of a threat or aggression in which nuclear weapons are used. Commitment not to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon state party due to the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. And they will consult in the event a situation arises which raises a question concerning these commitments. Basically, all of them broke it. Ukraine's the only one who did something proper. Every single other signature on this deal has been broken.
Let's say, hypothetically, you got sent to Siberia.
Early videos of FPV footage, most of them had bootleg Russian firmware to operate. Most FPV and 3D printing videos, either in Russian or English. Makes sense. Yeah, I don't think the language itself is the enemy that much. It's one of those things where I feel a divide is being created on a very what's the word? I don't want to say artificial ground, but kinda. It's like it's manufacturing a thing to be fighting about, isn't it? That's the way I say it. It's manufacturing. It's making up a thing to be fighting about, and currently the thing is the use of Russian language. But like, is that really the priority that we should be focusing on? Really? Genuinely? Paul here, pressing Article 5. Duda, idiot. Idiot. If I received any promise from Trump and he promised me something, it was fulfilled. I don't know if Duda is aware that Trump's way of ending the war in a day would be to pull all support from Ukraine and hope that they get genocided in 24 hours or less. I don't know if Duda is aware of this and he supports this attempt, or if Duda is not aware of this and he is extremely stupid. I think that's two only options that we have in this situation. Either he also wants Ukrainians to be genocided really quickly so he could forget about the whole thing, or he is very, very dumb. No other option. Superstate of Oceania under the English Socialist Party? Oh, 1984. Oh, I would need to reread that thing. Piss social credit. Yeah. Oh. I mean, Piss wasn't pissed already. Interesting. When it comes to their alliances. I feel like they were already interesting when it comes to their alliances. So, yeah. Puppet, dipshit she goes. I mean, fair. Also gave their conventional missiles and bomber planes. Some of the missiles were used back on Ukraine. Oh shit, I remember that. Needs more reasons to ask for German reparations. Slippers, are you asking for German reparations again? Slippers, are you people gonna ask for reparations? Has there been a conversation in Polish society about that? Oh, that would be fucking great. Didn't it happen like last? No, not last year, the year before, right? Was, I think, the last one where it got a lot of media coverage because the full-scale invasion just started and Europe was, all up in chaos. Are we gonna freeze this winter? Are we not gonna freeze this winter? And Poland goes, Germany, we need some cash. I almost made Duda's head fit on that body. Hey! You think? Maybe he just looks very round. He's trying everything he can to save his piss buddies. That means licking Republican balls right now. Oh. See that? How would siding with Republicans help him save his piss buddies? Did he ask Trump to promise that peace is gonna win the next election? Because I imagine he could just. Hey yo, Croatian. Hey yo. Hey yo. Hey yo. Think again, Duda? No, I think Duda is thinking. I think Duda is GG.
He understood. He would have never done it. He would have never. That's without even negotiating a deal. I could have negotiated. At worst, I could have made a deal to take over something. You know, there are certain areas that are Russian-speaking areas, frankly. But you could have worked a deal. He understood. He would have never done it. He would have never. That's without even negotiating a deal. I could have negotiated. China no longer respects the United States.
Oh, they just clipped it out. Fuckers just clipped it out. Oh man. What for do they get from crying? Fundraising? Maybe?
Let's see. Hypothetically, you got sent to Siberia.
I guess? I'm not sure. Russian speaking wants to be Russian. Yeah, I know, it's just a dumbass thing. To be fair, that was a relatively long word for Trump to say. Have you noticed that?
Like negotiate.
Like he can pronounce negotiation. He would have he would have negotiated Russian victory. He would have negotiated Russian victory, and that's that. Nothing else. Oh, a piece of crap. I mean, the USA would look even weaker then. At least in this way, they're trying to oppose Russia. In his sort of a world, they would just be like, "Oh yeah, Russia, you wanna take a part of an ally country that we have signed security assurances for, a sovereign country with internationally accepted borders. You wanna take a chunk of them? By all means, Russia, I am allowing you to take this part. Yes, absolutely, freely do so." Ended the war in Europe by giving in to all the Russian demands. Yeah, I ended the war in a day by helping Russians. I have successfully taken the aid that we are given to Ukraine and gave it to Russians instead. War was done in a day. Oh, superiority. Hey, yo, DB, how's work going? Trump first became president. Yeah, it was funny. It was funny. And then, you know, it stopped being funny. And it's not even entertaining at this point, let alone funny. Mr. Putin, stop attacking Ukraine. And Putin would have no choice but to make a deal. Frankly, a great deal. And the war would be over on day one. Yes. Mr. Putin, you can stop attacking Ukraine. I'm just gonna give it to you for free. Like, take this map, Mr. Putin. Take this map, Mr. Putin, and draw the areas that are Russian speaking, and you can just have them. Why waste ammunition? Why waste weapons when you can just like redraw the borders as you like? And no war happening at all. Trump the peacekeeper. Polls are hardcore pro-US. They believe the word of US Congress will sway the public opinion and give them more international credibility since they can't get any in Europe. Oh! Polls are pro-US? Why? We're not pro-US, and USA save our asses, saved our butts. But like, I'm pretty sure if USA was openly declaring support for any Croatian party, it would be seen as concerning. A flex indeed. A flex indeed. How would that be? That's a weird little thing. It would be seen as a concerning thing here. On defend Russian language, I switched to Ukrainian last year. Despite being Russian speaking, I always used to switch to Ukrainian if my opponent was speaking Ukrainian since 1990. But some degens on Twitch do think that it's the cure. Small Ukrainian Twitch streamers, I blocked like 10 of them because they kept saying they don't respect Russian speaking UAF like Kraken and Azov. Yeah, it's why I genuinely feel that this whole fight is, hey, don't be attacking Thompson in my chat. Thompson is GG, leave my man alone. But I genuinely feel like this whole fight is just a way to divide the people, and that's it. You know, like it's a stupid thing to be fighting about. It's just a dumbass thing to be fighting about. It's a way to get Ukrainians to fight between each other and to focus on irrelevant shit. It doesn't matter. This genuinely shouldn't be mattering at all. It's not an important thing to talk about at all. But Thompson is nice and leave my man alone. They should have impeached Trump after the first year and put him in jail, and that would have been the best US president ever. Man, I wish. He's now not going to go into prison. He would never go to jail then. He doesn't respect Russian speakers. Here's my thing with that, and that supports my point. That fucking supports my point that this thing is just misinformation designed to turn Ukrainians one against each other. Out of Thompson and Anna, which one of them is a person actually going to the front line and actually giving aid straight to the soldiers and actually interacting with them regularly? Which one of them actually speaks to volunteer battalions? Which one of them is on the fucking ground? Because you know which one of them is on the fucking ground, and therefore we should know whose opinion here should be the one we value a little bit more. Like, as much as I love Thompson, let's be real here. Let's be real here. Did the man go there to interview members of volunteer battalions? He fucking didn't. He fucking didn't. He's able to focus on these irrelevant issues like who speaks Russian, who doesn't speak Russian. He's not actually there on the ground. His priorities are mismatched. And I genuinely believe that this is why you're having like Twitch streamers bitching about volunteer battalions speaking Russian or whatever the fuck. It's because it's an issue for people who are not actually on the ground. Your priorities are all mushy-wushy. That should not be a priority. Deciding whether or not you're going to support people who fight against Russia based on, you know, the fact that they speak Russian or not, it shouldn't be a goddamn priority. So I'm not really supportive of the whole debate at all, to be honest. I think it's a way to divide people. I think it's a way to weaken Ukrainian resolve overall. Ukrainian refugees from Kharkiv, pro-Ukraine, wave Ukrainian flags. They only speak Russian though, but still super pro-Ukrainian. Yeah, like that. And it feels like anyone who would be blaming these people for only speaking Russian would be just, you know, a chronically online person with a severe lack of any experiences on the ground and any knowledge of what's really important here. It's dumbass conversation to be focusing on that much. Anna would be in the first line with that sniper streamer. Anna is amazing. Anna is amazing when it comes to that, isn't it? You know, I don't know. Like when you gauge the opinions, I genuinely think that her priorities are set straight. Mushy. Hey, leave weebs alone, hater. You fucking hater. They're gonna be affected by Russian propaganda regardless. Russian propaganda isn't about Russian language. Russian propaganda spans so much wider, and you are not safe from it by not knowing Russian. Speaking Russian or not speaking Russian is not defining line or whether or not you're influenced by Russian propaganda. Russian propaganda is so much more. Farium? Should be like they deserved it. If they spoke Ukrainian, nobody would attack them. Oh shit. Well, it's like genuinely a way to divide the people. And then the thing is, you get like Ukrainians who are pro-Ukrainian but speak Russian. you get them feeling attacked by you. Because that's what you're doing, you're attacking them. You're literally playing into Russian propaganda by doing this shit. Putin being out there like, oh yeah, Ukrainians actually despise Russian speakers in Ukraine. And then you have people being like, oh yeah, Russian speakers of Ukraine, fuck them. Just fuck these people, fuck them. They're basically Russians. Dude, like you're following the line of Russian propaganda. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Are you not aware of what arguments you're supporting? Come on. Tucker idiot interviewing Putin. Oh yeah, the interview is supposed to drop soon, right? Or did it already drop? If you can disrespect Ukrainians for speaking Russian because of some stupid ass ethno-nationalist idea, then the logical conclusion is just to split out the Russian-speaking parts. Yeah, exactly. Like you're going straight into what Russians are saying, following straight into their lines. Like, come on. That's insane. That's fucking insane. I would strike her for being a weeb. Aww. And you can't because I'm the streamer. Loser. How do you feel about anime slippers? You wanna talk about One Piece? Wanna talk about some what anime do I know? Attack on Titan. Haven't watched that one, but you wanna talk about Inuyasha? I used to be watching Inuyasha. I actually got a strike. Did I get timed out? Am I gonna get timed out? What happens if I get 3 strikes? Riot? Great, nice. Holy shit. Twitch chatters. Starting a fucking revolution before Russia does. I mean, silly. Midnight your time. Do we want to watch him tomorrow or do we not want to watch him tomorrow? I kind of don't want to watch him. I also kind of do. Part of me just wants to be. It's Friday, it's like the day before weekend, it's the last work day. Part of me just really wants to watch Tucker and be really angry. But I can't drink beer while being. I can't drink beer. I have a ride to work actually. Should I be drinking beer before work is a whole another issue. Maidan or Maiden? Fair. I kind of want to, but I kind of don't. Also, I saved the Vlad video on what Tucker interview means. This one.
Hello, beautiful community. We're talking Tucker and Putin. And there are two really important
we know what it means, right? Is anyone here lost in the meaning of the Tucker interview?
We'll come to that second. And that is, how do you, if you're an American citizen, or if you're not, if you're
learning Russian philology in university, and for like the last 20-30 years she's ultra language Nazi. Oh, the name sounds familiar. Did she have some scandal very, very recently?
But the conflict here
I mean, I could actually look into it.
Kremlin disinformation operation.
Didn't know how to ask. I could have just googled.
Local culture wars, right? Tucker is a product of local culture wars. So we're in the realm of a local phenomenon in American politics, which it would be wrong to attribute to.
Oh yes, we lost our Trump fanboy. Russia fears Trump, guys. Remember that. Russia is very, very scared of Trump.
Disinformation operation. So how do you balance these two things? And we'll come to that. Not because it's intellectually fascinating to balance them, but because consistently failing to balance it correctly is going to lose you your democracy over
I'll need to find it. Azov scandal and Krim student scandal. Oh, I'll need to look into that.
What's fascinating is the unbelievable deferential tone of...
Wait, Microsoft has a news page where news in Swedish often originates from a site called Dagens. And I found that this site often translates news straight from Chinese and seemingly also Russian news channels. What the hell? Do you know any site that's cleaning Swedish news? Oh, to be honest, the way I used to be following what's going on in Sweden is just by going to a news aggregator.
You got sent to Siberia.
That was really loud for me. Or this fucker is very quiet. But the way that I used to be following the news in Sweden was by going to a news aggregator like News Now. and then just like comparing different sources and trying to figure out what's going on. So yeah, I would go here and then I would go to Sweden. I wasn't really doing anything too sophisticated. We'll go here, would go to Sweden. You have like your pick of stories that are happening right now. You can also do like Swedish politics, for example, specifically. You got Swedish politics, Swedish sports, Swedish economy. If you're interested in any of those, you go to politics. You see a bunch of news on politics, and then you compare them between each other. But what I'm mostly doing is like, for example, this one is Fox News. So if it's Fox News, I'm source of that. And then I notice what the other sources are saying on the same situation, and I like compare them in my head, and I figure out which one seems to be the one reported by most proper sources. So that's, I wasn't really doing it in any sort of a smart way. Hey, thank you, Martha. Thank you. How are you doing? Nothing that caught my ear. Oh, that's kind of sad. She was a little bit bullying kids in school for Russian man names. Oh shit, I remember. There's a video of that, isn't there? There's a video of that because I remember lots of Vatnik spreading it around as proof that Putin really did need to come and save Russian speakers of Ukraine. True, yeah.
Russian propaganda toward Tucker. It's not just euphoric, the tone of the Russian propaganda, it's deferential. Tucker ate his toast, but then he had a second portion. And here he is having the second portion. And in between these two, he looked out of the window. I wonder what he could have thought then. A bit earlier, we saw him in the theatre, and that's where he sat. What would have been his perspective down onto the stage from up there on the balcony? What kind of experience did he have? I mean, this is
where do we go?
Weird, because surely you guys, beneficiaries of the Putin regime, are supposed to be anti-American, but you're getting on your knees here before an American, partly because he's an American. That is weird.
Is it?
Or is it?
Huh?
And actually it isn't, because here is what's going on. There's an unbelievable normative dependence that 99.32431% of Russians feel toward the West. I've just exaggerated, obviously, but it's an important point to make. And that normative dependence on the West is ubiquitous. It goes across the spectrum of political viewpoints among Russians. There is the viewpoint that says, we want to be like the West. That's one point of view. And unfortunately, the Russian opposition is sunk in that. There's a video on the main channel that explores the issue of whether the Russian opposition has imperialist tendencies, that actually lands on that point and says the real problem is actually an incapacity to, with a real sense of openness and agency, imagine the Russian political space. And instead of that, right, there's this wheeling out of slogans and cliches about wanting to live in harmony like the civilized world does, wanting to...
He's basically like saying they are imperialist.
To live.
He's just going around it.
World do. Now, first of all, even if you wanted to copy the West, that's a bizarre way of going on about it, because you'd precisely not say I want to be like the West. I'd say, well, what are the different things different Western countries are doing, and what do I want to borrow, and what do I want to keep out? So even from that point of view, this slogan is an absurd evasion of actual politics and actual reflection. But it's worse than that, because there is no guarantee at all that what Russia needs is going to be derived from whatever combination of possibilities you find currently practiced in Western countries, especially as the West is in democratic decline. But the Russian opposition, with many exceptions, and the exceptions are wonderful and free people who are not caught up in this prejudice, but the majority of the Russian opposition has this story: we want to live like the civilized West does. A lot of the beneficiaries and supporters of the Putin regime say, and this is the second possibility, we want to do the opposite of the West. So whatever the West is, we want to do the opposite. But then there's a third possibility, which says, and this is also peddled by Russian propaganda. So not just want to be the opposite of the West, but this third position, which says we do want to be like the West, but the West has forgotten what it truly is. And as soon as it remembers that and gets rid of all the things the Kremlin wants us to get rid of, then the West will, as it were, remember its true identity, its true character, and then the Russians will be able to say that they want to be like that West. And if the West is like that West, then they'll be able to say we want to be like the West again.
I mean, that makes sense. Wait, Johnny from Azov started bullying Farion because of her criticizing Russian language in the army. Farion was like, look, Russian surname, why would we even listen? To a fucking Azov member.
And it's this third bucket into which Russian propagandists put Tucker Carlson. He is the West.
I'm Azov member.
And the Russians still, the beneficiaries of the regime, the supporters of the regime, still want to be like the West in that sense. But they want to be like the West that has forgotten what it really is about. And it will remember what it's really about when it elects Trump, Le Pen, and on the list might go. So, stunning normative dependence on the West that is just ubiquitous. And that's what's up with all of this. Tucker is eating his second toast and we wonder what he's feeling. So, I mean, there's almost a colonial quality to this, right? Well, the colonizers are here and we want to, in fact, learn civilized values from them. Right? That's really, it's the position of a submitting colonized party. That's the response to Tucker. Okay, let's get to ourselves now. How do we balance this thing? Because it's really easy for us to become childish. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you felt like this and say, Tucker and everybody who likes him is a Russian asset. Well, in a trivial sense, that might be true, in the sense that they're serving a Russian interest with this particular action. But if by Russian asset you mean what you really should mean,
in a trivial sense, it might be true.
Russian asset in the United States,
he explains how it's true.
Asset, is an agent whose rudder, if you like, is operated from outside. Right? Well, Tucker's rudder is not operated from outside; it is indigenous. Right? What Tucker does is
I can agree with that.
Algorithmically right.
Okay, so what he's basically doing, is he's arguing the semantics of it. He's being like, oh, you called him a Russian asset. But is he a Russian asset? Because for him to be a Russian asset, he would need to be played like a little puppet by Kremlin. He's not played by like a little puppet by Kremlin. He's actually controlling himself. He's just choosing to play himself in a way that benefits Russia. So he's doing the same shit. It's just that... Nah. Like fair, it's like him, you know. Oh, you could say that they are Russian asset, and technically it would be true. He's doing semantics. He's doing a Twitch debate thing. If you were doing a debate with this man, oh, he would absolutely fucking crush you. He would destroy your living. Language question easily solved by comparing statistics of ethnics between Ukrainian speakers and Russian speakers. Who voted for Yanukovych? Russian speakers. Yeah, but then you're again going back straight to the line to Russian propaganda, which says, hey, all Russian speakers actually support Russia. All Russian speakers of Ukraine actually support Russia, and all of them are ethnics, and all of them want to be part of Russia. So Russian-speaking areas should just be given to us, because all of these people in Russian-speaking areas want to be Russians. Which is going directly against the reality of the situation on the ground.
Moments of moment in US culture wars. That's what decides what Tucker is and what Tucker does. So in that sense, he's not a Russian asset. But it's tempting to say Russian asset.
Because it's true.
And just close the conversation. But then you create a
does
lot
asset
of democratic...
does Russian asset, I mean, I'm not even sure if he's correct. Now that I think about it, it's not the same thing as calling him a Russian agent, right? If you called him a Russian agent, I feel like that would mean that he's directly paid by Kremlin, right? A Russian asset, I feel like he can be a person who's not directly paid. unless I'm not even proper in how I understand the words. But I feel like agent would be one thing and asset would be another thing, and he definitely, by definition of what the word asset means, he would be a Russian asset. Just by, doing the things he's doing, even if he's not directly controlled by Kremlin itself.
Danger for yourself, and that's what we've got to explore. And there are 3 very simple principles here. One is, do not conflate local, indigenous produced political moments of moment with artificially constructed
assets to some way, you could be right.
Occurrences triggered by malign foreign interference. Right. So that means I can sit here as somebody who in Britain voted Remain in the Brexit referendum and say, well, yeah, the Russians rather like this idea of Brexit and they try to do a little bit here, a little bit there to make a difference. But I lost the Brexit referendum for reasons that are overwhelmingly and almost exhaustively domestic.
But wait, but if you were arguing for Ukraine, if you were arguing for Ukraine as a public person, would you not be an asset? If you're arguing for Ukraine, for the case of Ukraine, in whatever your local politics are, would you not be a Ukrainian asset? Because it feels like, to me, the word is not inherently bad. The word is not... I think I conflated... You know what I conflated to? Helper or something like that. I conflated to that. Like, almost even a tool. I don't know if tool is a proper word for that. But that's kinda the way I conflate that word too. But it might come from the fact that, like, you need to understand the way it's used specifically when it comes into, like, a combination with, like, the country of origin of the supposed asset. Driver refused to speak Ukrainian as law needs. Farian was radically criticizing with phrases you would imagine from Russians or 30s Germans. Like, send him to fight for sacred great Ukrainian land. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, that's horrible. Oh, that's... Yeah. Russian assets, definitely. No, I mean, I would be GG. I feel like if someone calls me, like, a Ukrainian asset, I wouldn't necessarily be too opposed to that. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I don't see it as inherently a bad word. But maybe that's from me not understanding. Yeah, like, you'd be like, hey, you're an asset of Ukraine. I would be like, yeah, I'm happy to be. That's good. That's a good thing. Thank you. But I guess maybe there's something in English language where when the word asset is paired with, like, a country, it, like, means that they have to be connected to the regime. How would I even Google that? What do I even Google to figure that out? That's what Russia does when they call anyone who's slightly pro-West or receives any money from the West foreign agents. Hey, see, yeah, but I feel like when you call someone an agent, it's a different thing. Right? Because, like, calling someone a Russian agent would be another thing. But calling someone an asset of the West, I feel like would be a completely different thing. But also, I don't think like receiving money from the West necessarily would mean as much as arguing for the causes of the West as a public person. So, for example, if you are in Russia and you are arguing that Russia needs to get closer to European Union, Russia needs to abandon its trash-ass culture, and it needs to improve itself and not be a shithole anymore, and it needs to go more in line with what USA is, because you want the support of USA. I feel like you could be called a USA asset. I feel like you would be an asset. I had a whole drama with Ukrainian streamers. I don't understand the language good enough to follow that. When you call someone an asset, that still has a connotation in the same way as for an agent. That means that I wonder if the connotation is that you are directly paid by the government of said country. Or is the connotation that you are trying to play into their interests? Because if the connotation is that you are trying to play into their interests, then by definition Tucker is a Russian asset, and by definition I am a Ukrainian asset. Right? But yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's a semantics thing, definitely. I don't know how much it matters, that's true. You should be careful writing someone off as just a Russian asset when they were created in your own backyard, and should politically fight these people in your own backyard. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, it's an important thing to focus on, that he's betraying USA first and foremost, and he's siding with the enemies of USA, and it's a domestic thing. It's not something that Russia has necessarily paid him to do, even though his advocacy does go in line with what Russia wants. It doesn't mean that Russia is directly paying him, so you need to figure out where his loyalty is coming from. Asset is used as a broader term, which can include agents and normal people working as informants or observers. Oh, but you gotta be like more, you gotta be more connected to the country itself, like being an actual informant or an actual observer that they recognize, I assume, rather than just existing in your own political space and calling for changes to be made that would benefit this country. Ah, okay, that makes sense. It's like an agent is basically like a even stronger version of that.
So that's the first principle, right? I can't start going around calling Brexiteers Russian assets. Because what I'll be doing is effectively calling my political opponents, and notice political opposition is the relation of cooperation, like playing a game of tennis.
I can be an asset, I'm okay.
Within shared rules.
We all are CIA assets.
So
Not be a liability.
Fellow citizens as enemies. That's extremely dangerous, because you should be really slow to do that, especially in the world in which they are designating you as an enemy.
To be fair, I feel they are enemies. I think his problem is that they are saying they're being controlled by the enemies. Like if you say that they are Russian assets, if you say Brexit people are Russian assets, you're saying that they are being controlled by the enemies to the state, which is one thing, but like calling them just enemies to Britain itself, I feel like they were enemies to Britain. Have you not seen how British are doing?
Large groups of citizens mutually designating each other as enemies is only something that democratic institutions can sustain without snapping for a decade or two. Then they'll snap.
Oh.
So we've got to be extremely careful about this. First principle. Second principle, we're not careful about this to the point of...
How long has it been going on in countries which have like very, very polarized politics, like USA? What does he mean, like 2 decades, decade or two without snapping? Is there another country which is as polarized on this issue, now that I think about it? Because USA definitely has the whole thing with Republicans and Democrats, the hardcore ones, genuinely perceiving each other as the enemy, right? How long? How long? Being an ass, I'm already 60% of an asset. Hey.
Downplaying or denying facts about Russian interference. So we've got to be objective about how the Russians are interested in destabilizing our democracies and how they're taking positive action to do that. We've got to understand how the Russians are doing it and why they're doing it without illusion too. We shouldn't project onto the Russians aspirations they don't have. We've got to get their aspirations right. And you've got to get the efficacy of their interventions right. We don't want to start with the reality of a particular Russian intervention having an efficacy of 0.1% and treat it as though it had a 30% efficacy in a particular outcome in Western domestic politics. So the second principle, don't, for goodness sake, underestimate Russian interference or factually misrepresent it. Just don't exaggerate it. And don't be the depoliticized citizen who wants to avoid reality, which is what the depoliticized mob in the middle in Russia do. Don't be like that by pretending that you don't need to deal with your fellow citizens who you're in a conflict with. By excusing yourself with a fantasy that they're produced by malign foreign interference. Right? If you want somebody who balances these two things really well and is an expert on interference and Russian interference, look up Thomas Rid, R-I-D. He's wonderful in balancing
Okay, gonna save this tab open. I'm gonna be leaving relatively soonish to go to work, but I definitely want to see who that dude is.
Sort of soberness and expertise here. And the third principle here is that getting the first two principles right is not just an intellectual pleasure, it's an essential democratic demand. You get these things off balance for a long enough time, you're going to imperil your democracy. So that's really important. And that means we've got to watch for self-congratulatory tendencies in ourselves, right? Childish tendencies in ourselves to designate our local political opponents as foreign-generated enemies. It's a very natural tendency in the algorithmic bubble that you're in, and it's extremely dangerous. So be very careful about it. Now, last separate remark on the issue of what the interview will look like. The interview will not be journalistic. It'll be Tucker.
Oh, so there was polarization, but they weren't seeing each other as enemies, actually.
To a US demographic that is losing trust in institutions, and in particular is losing trust in the US policy of supporting Ukraine. And that is significant because Putin is relying on Western decline as a central part of his strategy for success. And a key pivot in Putin's story about Western decline is that Trump wins in 2024. Now, Putin got burned by Trump in the past, he feels, because Trump got co-opted after winning in 2016, and his Russian policy was not particularly soft. So Putin knows it could work out against him, but he does recognize that Trump is an unpredictable force, and in that sense, he overwhelmingly prefers a Trump victory in 2024. So take that in the context of the balance I've recommended between the local moment in politics and culture wars, and then balancing that against genuine recognition, attribution, interpretation of malign foreign
interference. If you can't learn your country language in 20 years, you are nationally biased or mentally retarded.
In its very final
to which system of coordinates do you belong?
I look forward to sharing it. So lots of thanks for your patience with my rant today.
At least in some way, yeah, you should be able to. You really should fucking be able to understand and to use the language of a country you've been living in for that long of a time. Holy crap. Old Russian too. I never saw. I would see fucking Vlad like Pexler described as a twink. that was not something I expected to see, to be honest.
You're very welcome tonight.
No, I think he's alright. I mean, he has other shirts. He has these shirts. He has some other ones. Okay, I guess this is the same one. He has two shirts. He has three. One of them is straight and one of them is wobbly, or maybe it's the same one but washed. He has 2 to 3 shirts for videos. Maybe he just likes wearing light colors in his videos. Leave my man alone. leave him alone. What fascists always do to polarize and rally up the population. Yeah, you break the democracy in like 10 years. What did he say? 1 decade or 2? You're gonna break the democracy of a country in like 20 years at most. That's enough time. It still leaves you a lot of time to be ruling the country. Ilham Aliyev. Okay. Well, value mutual support for our state sovereignty and territorial integrity. I understand the importance of keeping ties with countries that are attempting to be strategic partners of NATO. I do not believe Azerbaijan is necessarily an ally of NATO. They had some really close ties with Russia. They had some really close military ties with Russia. I do not necessarily believe Azerbaijan is good as a country, and I do not believe Aliyev getting re-elected how to say this? It's like congratulating Lukashenko on getting re-elected. I don't know. I understand the importance. Yeah, I understand why he's trying to be like, yeah, guys, we gotta support our friends. Azerbaijan is a major non-NATO ally, so, you know, they're on the side of the USA. Kinda, not really, but kinda. I understand the importance of that. I just... On a political way, I understand it. On a political way, I understand why he had to write this. On a human level... Come on. Come on. Imagine typing out the words "congratulations to Ilham Aliyev on his re-election" and not just laughing yourself the whole time. Well, fucking re-election, come on. Dude probably counts votes the same way Trump fucking wants to count votes. Bohemian fashion. You think a white shirt is bohemian? Do you have different ideas what bohemian fashion is? Hey, look, we like you more than Russians. Yeah. Hey guys. Russians are not on your side. Russians are famously on the side of Armenia. As they have famously shown in last few years. It doesn't matter, guys. You're on our side. And we like you very much. Come on. We're gonna give you better weapons. Anglo-barbarisms and offers Ukrainian alternatives. But when Galicians historically say some Polish words in grammar constructions, she's like, this is dialect. Dialects are a source of language strength and richness. Oh, shit. Yeah, we have that problem here too. People not understanding how language works, trying to be really strongly nationalistic in their policies regarding language, and then it just turns into bullshit. I don't know how you like your Ukrainian alternatives. Do you like them? Do you think they're good? Because whenever we get a Croatian language alternative to an English word, it's always horrible. We are the target of jokes in Balkans because of this. Because so many of our words, we do this thing where like every single year we release a new list of Croatian words. And it's basically words that we got, and it's not even just from English. It's words that we got from English, German, Turkish, any language around. And then we try to put this word into Croatian, and it always looks fucking ridiculous. It's always a long word that no one's going to fucking use. No one even like remembers the words after they come around, but we try to make it like more Croatian than the alternative. It's a silly little thing. Azeris seem to have the same relationship to Russia as Turkey has to NATO and USA. Could be. Yeah, I could actually agree with that. I feel the biggest problem with that is that they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. Russia is supposed to be on the side of Armenia. The fact that Azeris have a very close relationship to Russia, mutually beneficial relationship, is very problematic. I have nothing against it. And if it's use this and only this instead of that, then I'm usually against it. Oh yeah, luckily it's just an alternative. They're trying to like push these alternative words into usage, but it doesn't really work. It never works. So far, I don't know if a single one of them actually succeeded. But usually it's stupid because they will make like 2 word alternatives to 1 word, for example. No one's gonna use that shit. It sounds horrible. It sounds ridiculous. There's a joke in Serbian that Croatians don't say dog. We say the thing that barks around the house. Okolo kućno lajalo. And it's so silly. Like, you know how many times I go to like Balkan spaces and I say someone being like, tell me your favorite word in Croatian, and it's all shit like that. And, you know, partially we don't actually use that term for a fucking dog. But a lot of the alternative terms are something simple to that, right? Like when they were making word for the fuck is kabanica in English? Kabanica. And it's kind of ironic even. Raincoat. So like we have kabanica, which is a word for raincoat, but I remember this specifically because I was ending high school when the new term for this got introduced, and we had it printed on all of our raincoats that we got because we were celebrating the last day of high school, and then there was a lot of rain, so you get like free school supplied raincoats to be carrying, city supplied actually, but the word was poncho for on the rain. Poncho za na kiszu. Poncho for on the rain. Which makes no sense. Like, as a term, it's a dumbass way to say it. And also it uses poncho as a word. Why the fuck would you say that? If you're trying to make it purely Croatian. But they just like tried to switch the usage overnight. It never worked. And I'm pretty sure most people already forgot about it by this point. Yeah, I don't know, just dumbass bullshit. Also, I have to leave, I have to go to work. My coworker's gonna pick me up in a few minutes. Football? Kicked ball. But when I personally saw it in text, I thought first word is differently sounding. And I was like, what the fuck is digged buried ball? Wait, we have... Nogomet. Do you just say football? Do you have nogomet? Nogomet, like leg target, leg put. I don't know what met is, what source of met is, but we have nogomet. Oh, you have football actually. We have nogomet. Yeah. So we actually have like a proper Croatian word that actually got usage here. We don't use football. Football is used for American one, mostly. American football. Američki football. But you don't use it for nogomet. Nogomet is just nogomet. Hey, you have nogo. Yeah, is the joke term. Hey, we use it unironically. It's how you say football in Croatian. It's nogomet. No, wait, it's... Listen. Okolo Vat Nikolai. I could be, actually. Wow, sorry, Kim. Coming from the language of the fuck do I what do I know about funny words in German? There's like one single word in my mind, and it's this TikTok I saw of people making like different ways to say ambulance in their languages, and then German comes on the screen and they're like Krankenwagen. And that's the only thing I remember at this point. You do use football? Nah, we use nogomet here. Nogomet is the based term, by the way. Nogomet is the based term. You should be using that one only. Switch to Croatian, okay? You don't want to be having these Anglo-barbarisms, is that how they were called? You don't want to be having that in your fucking language. That's ridiculous. Take something Croatian. I will gladly provide any word you need. Schmetterling. No, but really. No Croatian Duolingo. Yeah, I remember that. Što je žena? I mean, fair. That's fair. That would be great. You come into Croatia and that's the only sentence, you know. You're like, hello. Što je žena? Might actually start some interesting discussions in Croatian probably, so you will not be able to participate too much. Zatvori vrata. Oh, yeah. True. That's proper. See, that's proper. Take Croatian. Why would imagine saying that in German? It's probably like 50 letters long and takes an hour to actually pronounce. Sadam spremni srbeno vreme. With that, I end this stream. Are we allowed? That's it. We're allowed to say that stuff in Croatian. Twitch doesn't have moderation in Croatian, does it? Nah, it doesn't. It doesn't have proper moderation in English. Psst. Zatvori vrata, it means close the door. It just close the door. Zatvori, close vrata, doors. But yeah, usually it depends on the usage, but it's like a nice way to say fuck off. So yeah, you can say it to shut up, you can say it to get the fuck out. It really depends on like which situation you're using it in, but get the fuck out, get the fuck off. Yeah, basically shut it. That, yeah, in English alternative would be saying shut it to someone. So it depends on you can also say it like as a nice way to actually ask someone to close the door. But if you use it in a conversation where you're not around any doors to be closed, it's going to be understood as a relatively rude thing. I have to go to work. See you tomorrow. If Tucker interview drops, if any of you watch it before our stream tomorrow, tell me if it's worth watching. If it drops around midnight, actually I'm likely gonna watch it before going to sleep. So we'll see that. Yay! See ya, guys. I'm going to go earn my paycheck, so wish me luck. Stay strong, stay healthy. Valentine's Day in 6 days. Prepare a present for someone you love and want to bed